The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, April 24, 2023 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, please join us for the invocation given by Alderman O'Neill, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. In the spirit of Earth Day, which just passed, I have a prayer for our Earth. Infinite Spirit, we gather to praise your creation, to honor the swimmers and crawlers, the four-leggeds and the winged ones. We give thanks for the beauty and glory of creation and open our hearts to new ways to understand our place in the universe, not the center or focus, but a humble and balanced place where every step we take becomes a prayer, every word we say makes harmony with the vast vibrating cosmos, and where we know we are singing the song of life. We wish for humility, not to humble ourselves before presidents or priests, but before the ants and trees. For if we cannot be in the true relation to the ant, we shall be outcasts of the garden. Let us cast the pollution from our eyes so that we can see the glory and live with thanksgiving. Let us remember it is not how we talk, but how we walk. When we say we love animals, let us protect them. When we say that we love the plant people, let us honor them by living lightly on the earth. When we say we love minerals, let us use them only in necessity and remember their rightful places. Oil belongs in the ground, not in the air through our wasteful machines. Wondrous trees breathing life into the atmosphere, your gifts of fire and shelter, fruit and sailing are precious to us, and in many ways you offer us leaves of knowledge. May the vision of mutual interrelatedness, cosmic interdependence, the seamless process of generations, not end in cough-filled skies blotting the sun, but rather may clear air, healthy forests, wholesome water, expansive prairie, and pungent earth nourish paths for all creatures through mountain and valley and the salt sea and through a protective atmosphere as we rejoice in the inhabitants. Thank you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney. Here. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Shandelmeyer. Alderman Gay.
Here.
Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
This time I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to add R15-23. Could I get a motion, please?
So, second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ceremonial items, beginning with ID 823, citation for the Annapolis Citizens Group Save Our Trees.
Thank you. Oh, all right. If the Save Our Trees people could come forward. Thank you. We love you guys. Right there, and I'll come to you. Yep. And Alderman Savage, you want to come up? Yes. Appreciate you guys. So. Love the work you're doing. Can't get out there soon. Sorry. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis. We are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work in volunteering and recruiting others to save our trees. Your organisation acts, educates and advocates. First, you act by hosting clearing events where you remove invasive species to help our native trees grow. We know you've spent hundreds of hours in Truxton Park removing invasives and English ivy. We know that invasives tangle their way into tree trunks and deprive trees of nutrients, which can decrease their stability, starve them of their ability to help insects and birds, and even kill the tree. You educate by helping people identify and remove invasives. You advocate by informing elected officials at all levels of government and are helping them understand the threat invasives pose to our natural environment. Our world needs more people like you, people who get out and do. Thank you for your hard work, your energy, and your time. We and the trees appreciate you. Thank you. And if anyone wants to say a few words, we appreciate you. And we've got a few volunteers here. Thank you. Well, you want to stick around for a picture? Want to step back a little bit?
Yeah, so I guess.
Thank you all. Would you like to say a couple of words at all? Anybody? Just because you might be able
Okay.
to do a little recruiting here.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, first of all, we want to thank your administration, and especially Brian, because when we asked the question, what can we do as citizens for our city, he said, save our trees. So Mother Nature put the 6 of us together, and in our first year, we've saved over 1,400 trees from the invasives. Yeah. But as the song goes, the city has been the wind beneath our wings. You have given us what we need when we need it. You've been timely. Your administration has been wonderful. Thank you. And I also would like to speak to the aldermen and women and say, please put us to work within your communities. Reach out, and we will come and speak to the different communities, and we will help them put events together. We want every child in the city of Annapolis to be able to read a book under a tree and feel safe and feel loved. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, leave these down. You know where these are? Huh? Public Works? Okay, great. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ID 4923, citation for Annapolis Public Works Department masonry crew.
All right. Well, these are the unsung heroes of the city. Poor old Public Works don't get enough recognition. When we're all asleep in our beds, they're down, freezing cold manholes, fixing the city and keeping things going. This is in relation to some masonry efforts, so please come forward, our Public Works team. So I'm just going to read out Rosie's one. We have a number of you for the City Public Works team. On behalf of residents of the City of Annapolis, we're pleased to confer upon you. You might have heard that before. As a general, in recognition of your cross-departmental work to get city recreation parks facilities ready for the spring and summer recreation season. Sorry. I should know better. Over the winter, as members of the Department of Public Works masonry crew, you worked early and often over the winter weather months to update 6 dugouts. The work helps Recreation and Parks efforts in building new dugouts for youth programs, adult programs, local communities and taxpayers. The jobs were done in very timely manner, and the crew's determination was on point and showed true professionalism during the entire process. Thank you, DPW, and fellow Masons. You are a true asset to the City of Annapolis. Thank you. And they are probably not here because they all get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Here's it for you, Dave, and then I'll let you guys hand these out, and we'll do one photo. Mitchell. Thank you. Let me get this one. Dave loves getting his picture taken. All right, thanks for that.
If I could just say real quick, so these guys that did this work are just sort of emblematic of the entire public works crew. So they work hard every single day in all kinds of weather. They work outside. They never get recognition, so they really appreciate this. But they do start work at 6 a.m., so this is like a late night meeting for them. But this is really appreciated because this sort of recognition goes a long way for the entire group, not just for this crew that did this work. So thank you to the council very much for this, and thank you, Mayor, for this.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ID 7623, Fair Housing Month Proclamation.
Alderman Gay, can we come up with this? Yep.
Whereas the U.S. Fair Housing Act was enacted into law on April 11, 1968, which expresses a national policy of fair housing for all who live in the United States, and whereas the principle of fair housing is not only a state and national law and policy, it is a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all, and whereas the City of Annapolis is committed to promoting and protecting the rights of individuals to fair and equal housing opportunities, and whereas the City of Annapolis is dedicated to creating an inclusive and diverse community where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, and whereas the City of Annapolis recognizes the importance of fair housing to the economic, social, and cultural vitality of our community, and whereas the community, we welcome all good neighbors, recognizing the contributions and richness tendered by a wide variety of young and old, male and female, people of all color and ethnic backgrounds, religious traditions, etc. And whereas residents of the City of Annapolis are encouraged to join recognition, celebration, and commitment to providing equal housing opportunities for all citizens in the City of Annapolis. We must continue to work together to ensure that all individuals have access to safe, affordable, and quality housing. Let us use this month to recognize the importance of fair housing and to renew our commitment to creating a more equitable and just community. And it's...
Thank you, and I want to thank the City Council, everybody for this. Please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is informational item ID 5423, the City of Annapolis Boards and Commissions Combined Annual Report for 2022.
Thank you all. On the agenda provided to the council, no action is required. Just needed to read that into the record, Mr. City Attorney. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda, petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
Thank you all. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. You may have noticed as you come into City Hall tonight, the black draping over the front door and the purple windows at City Hall on Gorman Street. These are in memory of city employee Kevin Scott, a senior land use and development planner in the Department of Planning and Zoning, who passed away on April 13th after a brave battle with pancreatic cancer. City staff are heartbroken at this loss, and we are holding Kevin's widow, Jess, and his family and friends in our heart. I'd like to please take a moment of silence to remember Kevin and his contribution to our community as we all grieve his loss. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the scores of volunteers who came out on Saturday for Greenscape, the Annapolis Department of Recreation and Parks initiative to tidy up, weed, and plant more than 36 sites around the city. Thank you all for your time and energy. We all know that springtime is beautiful here in Annapolis, and this cleanup and planting effort makes it even more beautiful. I want to also acknowledge Director Rosalind Johnson and Maria Whitlinger from her team. Maria organises these volunteers, acquires the plants, and make sure the day goes smoothly. Big round of applause for those guys. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, I will join Governor Wes Moore to mark Autism Awareness Month in both the city of Annapolis and the state of Maryland. In America, even though 1 in 44 children are diagnosed with autism, it is a widely misunderstood development disability. I call upon all of us to learn more about autism and work individually and collectively to gain a better understanding on how those with autism experience the world. Last week, Alderman Gay and I got to attend the Plan Element Design Reveal for Eastport Terrace and Harbour House's Choice Neighbourhood program. The public had an opportunity to see the plan, where they had a strong hand in the planning. We are just about at the halfway point over a 2-year process, and I'm sure the plan elements will face some modification as we move forward. But the outlines are strong, and I thank the public for their input and participation. We've got a few events coming up that I'd like to highlight. Coming up this weekend is a spring boat show, which starts on Thursday and runs through Monday. Next Monday, the Santa Maria Cup Regatta will come to Annapolis for a couple of days, when top women sailors in the world will race their J22s on the Severn River. These are top sailors from Australia, Denmark, Great Britain, New Zealand, Sweden, and the United States. There are 4 total stops on the Santa Maria circuit, including San Francisco, Annapolis, the sailing capital, France, and finalising the tour in Denmark. And a quick note, the Golden Rule, a vessel that is a historic peace protest ship against nuclear weapons, will arrive tomorrow at 11 a.m. at City Dock. This weekend also, the Book Festival at Key School is the Book Festival at Key School, and while it's not specifically in the city, it is a huge draw for authors coming from across the country to give talks, share their stories, and sell books. Then the following weekend, we have 2 events of note. First is a volunteer cleanup in the area outside of Town Courts on West Street near the Dunkin' Donuts. That will be on Saturday, May 6th from 9 to 1 p.m. Please check the city website to sign up to be a volunteer and come out and beautify some of our city trails. On the same day, Saturday, May 16th, between noon and 4, we are partnering with Maryland Hall and a variety of sponsors on Taco Fest, which will take place at Maryland Hall. There will be tacos to taste and buy, live music, libations, kids' crafts, and more. It is free to attend. I think I get to be one of the judges, which is awesome. There will be dozens of food trucks on site and to get a meal and enjoy fun, family-friendly events. For more information, visit the city's social media channels on the city website. All month, we've been celebrating Earth Month with the social media posts to share how to be more earth-friendly in our day-to-day lives. Unfortunately, the EV car show that was scheduled for Saturday was rained out. The good news is that they have rescheduled this event for Saturday, May 6th on Inner West Street. Alderman Savage has a great Rivian electric car. I hope it's going to be there. Later this week, we have Arbor Day on Thursday with a tree planting with children at Mills Parole Elementary. We have some good news about the Department of Public Works LEED certified building on Hudson Street. It is just about ready to open and move from Spa Road. Alderman Pindell Charles and I will be hosting a ribbon cutting ceremony and tours at 10 a.m. on Friday, May 15th. The public is welcome to attend, and I thank David Gerald and his team for getting this project across the line. One of many for David Gerald, thank you. And finally, before we get to the rest of the meeting, I would like to issue a brief statement, an issue of civility. We often have issues that come before us that attract public attention. And while we are caring and passionate in the city, we are here to debate issues. It is about policy, not people. Attacks should never become personal. We have to lower the temperature. We see around us divisions in public debate. We have an opportunity tonight to set a different tone. Let's all work towards that goal. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Please, next up.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is reports by committee.
Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that reminder of civility. The Finance Committee is in its second week of department presentations, Monday through Thursday. We're continuing this week. Tomorrow, ironically, is DPW, and all are welcome to attend. In the midst of that, we have done some review of legislation, which is the essay that's on the agenda for tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Transportation Committee met in April, and we have a scheduled meeting for May the 10th that is going to be canceled due to ongoing Finance Committee hearings, budget hearings. So our next meeting will be in June on the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you all. Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Without a doubt, our city has a hardworking administration and leadership. I'm Public Safety Chair. Our city supports our businesses and visitors, and our city should continue to uplift our residents. However, some are questioning, are we now starting to value rules over residents? And are we now undervaluing the people and elevating the process? Too often, we find ways to cut and diminish programs and initiatives that work for the people. And when it comes to our residents, we should promote programs that value our people who live here, especially when it comes to public safety and quality of life. And then when these programs work, then sometimes we start to believe that these programs are no longer necessary. In other words, the problems are fixed, so we don't need the programs anymore. And so we shut down and minimize the programs, or we underfund them. We know that some of our crime numbers have ticked up a bit this 2023 calendar year. Why? Some may say it's because the program that we started back in March, 13 months ago at this point in time, has ceased to exist. An old friend of our city often says a municipality's budget should reflect who and what we value. So do we value what Matthew says in the New Testament when he talks about the least of these, or do we focus on and pour over resources and time into the biggest of these? Yes, let's be honest, there are times when we have tossed aside and tossed out the forgotten ones, especially when we think no one is watching or paying attention. And our city should always value our staff and employees. As your council's public safety chair, I would be derelict in my duties if I did not recognize those who were and continue to be an integral part of getting us virtually unscathed through the pandemic, the tornado, securing the millions of dollars worth of grants that this city receives and continues to enjoy, and more. So I say to everyone here tonight, don't blame the staff. Instead, blame me. Instead, punish me. Yes, me. So tonight, yes, tonight, I am the one who must fall on the sword. Our next public safety meeting will be on May 16th at 4 p.m. here in City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw your hand up. Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
Thank you all for being here. First up is Keith McCaffrey. Please come forward, state your full name and address.
Good evening. Keith McCaffrey, 145 Pleasant Drive. And I'm here to support the Penguins. And it's a shame, in my opinion, that we have to be here in front of you to do this. But I'm also here to speak out against what I believe is an anti-swim culture for the past 2 years at Truxtun Park, the beautiful pool that you built. I was the coach of the Masters swim team there for 10 years, of the 16 years that it had been in existence. It was quietly canceled last year. So you cancel a Masters program, and you are giving the Penguins a fight for their lives to exist, a kids swim team, okay, when you have this beautiful new facility. The Masters was an unforced error. We required 4 hours in the week in the most lowest use times of the pool. 6 to 7:15 on Tuesday and Thursday, 7 to 8:30 on Sunday, 4 hours. The old pool had 5 lanes when I coached most of the years, of the 16 years that it was in existence. Now we have 6. We can do more than one thing. This program, Masters, has a misleading name. It's not just a bunch of really fast adult swimmers. It's anybody over 18 years old. So it's inclusive to 18 to 70, and I've coached people there from 18 to 70 years old. To include a Masters swim champion we have here, 21-time world record holder that swam there in Masters. It's a diverse population. I've coached triathletes and people who want to swim Masters swim meets there, people who just want to improve their swimming ability, people just looking to get a coached workout. They go to the pool, they don't really know what to do. They want to swim for that with a coach. I read in the paper recently that they want to use lanes for water walking and water cycling. I don't think this is what you built the pool for. I hope you'll support the swim programs at Truxtun. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is this Tara Stout?
I keep track of where I am to try to keep it moving. Tara Stout, 1118 August Drive, Ward 6. As everyone knows, I've been advocating for the Willows at Forest Drive at every city council meeting since November, and can finally report that we have a public hearing at Planning Commission on May the 4th. The Willows is a proposed 58-unit affordable family rental community comprised of 12 one-bedroom units, 28 two-bedroom units, and 18 three-bedroom units in 3 three-story walk-up garden buildings. 12 units will be reserved for non-elderly persons with disabilities. The Willows secured a competitive allocation of low-income housing tax credits, which requires scaled rents based on percentages of area median income. Primary ingress and egress is planned for the rear of the site. As a resident of Annapolis, I understand the community is in desperate need of quality, affordable housing. I've worked with Ingerman, the developer, for 25 years. They develop, manage, and own affordable housing communities as well as market-rate communities in several states. You can check out their website at ingerman.com. I am excited to be one step closer to bringing one of their quality developments to the community, and proud of the relationship we have forged with the American Legion Cook-Pinckney Post 141, which will enable them to finally realize their vision of a garden for heroes. Planning Commission held a work session for another development in September. At the end of that meeting, there was a dialogue about how great that project was, and I quote, because empty nesters like themselves could see their kids living there. So I'd just like to remind staff and Planning Commission that everyone is someone's kid, and we have residents living in dire conditions who would jump at the opportunity to have their kids live at the Willows. We are actively soliciting support from residents, business owners, so that Planning Commission understands the public supports development that complies with the city code, supports affordable housing, supports the Legion, and a garden for heroes. Commission is continuing virtual meetings. We have posted banners inviting the public to join the development team at the Legion and invite staff or Planning Commission to join us as well. With the pandemic officially over, should Planning decide that they prefer a public hearing at City Hall, we would welcome that. Council members have been known to offer support for projects at Planning Commission, so I am asking all of you to affirm your support for affordable housing by testifying or submitting written comments to Planning Commission as well. The public can submit written comments or request to testify live by visiting the city's website at annapolis.gov, Planning Commission comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Curtis Jones. Thank you, Gunny.
Mr. Mayor, while you're just walking up, I just want to commend Tara for her consistent advocacy and really just push the project through, and so congratulations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Curtis Jones. I live at 1400 Breton View Road, Annapolis, Maryland, 21409. Again, it's not in the city. It's out in the county. And like my friend just said, since November, we've been standing here talking about affordable housing. Some people refer to it as low-income housing. At the bottom line, it's affordable housing for people who live in the city of Annapolis that cannot afford to live here, but they work here. And I still state that if they live in Glen Burnie and work in Annapolis and that car breaks down, they can't get to work, they get fired. So it's up to the politicians in this room to support affordable housing for people in this city and for the veterans that can't afford to live in a house either, that are staying in their families' homes, that are sleeping in their cars and sleeping in the parks. Something has to be done. And now that we're near the goal line, let's not move the goal line again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Alison Ritter.
Good evening. I hate speaking in public, but it's worth it for the Penguins. I am Allison Ryder. I'm the head swim coach at St. Mary's High School.
Your address, please, Alison. Thank you.
Pardon?
Your address.
3208 Chrisland Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403.
Thank you. Thank you.
For 15 years, I was the parent manager, the Bay Ridge Marlin. For 10 years, I was the swim coordinator for the Truxton Park Triathlon, Youth Triathlon. And for 8 years, I was the president of the Greater Annapolis Swim League. In 2007, I was approached by Jen Bistrak to form a team in the city, the Truxton Park Penguins. She went over to the pool at Truxton Park and saw what was there, which was opportunity. An opportunity for the children in the city to learn to swim, an opportunity for the children to learn to compete, an opportunity for the families of Annapolis to have a Saturday all together on a pool deck, watching their children compete and building community. That stands today. That pool is bigger and better and nicer, and as it is a jewel in the crown of the Recreation and Parks Department for Annapolis, the swim team should be held in even higher regard. We should be giving them every opportunity they need to succeed in competition and in building community. And we shouldn't be diminishing opportunities for children anymore. We should be creating more. And I believe the Truxton Park Penguins are really one of the best recreation and parks opportunities in Annapolis. And I see that as a coach in the high school, where the skill sets have been set in these teams, and then the children succeed and will continue. It's a lifelong sport. And like Keith said, we should be looking for a way to make swimming at your spectacular pool the best it can be. And so I ask you to please consider everything that they're asking for. And it's really not that much when the success is the goal. So thank you, and thank you for your time, and thank you, Penguins.
Thank you. Next up is Thomas Hayes.
Hello, City. My name's Thomas Hayes, and I live at 204 Boyd's Cove Court. I'm a sophomore at Spalding High School, and I've been a Penguin for almost 10 years. Being a Penguin has been a big part of growing up, and it's been something I've always looked forward to every summer. And it's really been a family to me for all these years. And it just hurts to see that we've lost support over the past couple years, seemingly after the pool got renovated. The Penguins have done a lot to help the community. It's a safe and fun thing to do every week. And one thing that really stood out for me being a Penguin is we do this community outreach program where we help kids, underprivileged kids, who would not have been given the chance to learn how to swim anywhere else. And personally, I got to help, and it's very impactful. And I'm a lifeguard, and I've seen how quickly drowning can take effect, and it's scary. And just knowing that we helped some kids learn how to swim, it really shows how this team is helping the community. So please, we need you guys to give us some support, because the Penguins, we really help this community. And I don't think anybody really sees that right now. Thank you.
Next up, Jen Bistrak.
Jen Bistrak, 327 Chart Oak Court, 21409. I founded the Truxtun Park Penguins along with the City of Annapolis in 2006. I had moved here from Metro Atlanta. We have 12 public pools in DeKalb County at that time, and most of those pools offered summer teams. As the daughter of a single mom who worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, we took advantage and benefited from public resources whenever possible. Admiral Heights, Bay Ridge, Hillsmere, Hunt Meadow, City of Annapolis. Those are the opportunities that kids near the Annapolis Neck have for summer swimming. The City of Annapolis is the only public resource. So unless you live in one of those communities or you can afford to join one of the private pools, the Penguins is the only team available for parents to enroll their children in an 8-week, high-quality, out-of-school time program where their children, ages 5 through 18, maybe even 4 years old, emerge more confident, more autonomous, stronger, and with a solid sense of community in this out-of-school period that is such a vulnerable time for our children. 2006 was an intramural year. We had 20 swimmers. By 2010, we had 200 swimmers coming from the Metro Annapolis area. This is the community. We are a user group within the community. I started the Friday Night Splash program in 2008 to engage youth from lower income families. I worked with the Stanton Center, HACA, and the Box of Rain Foundation. The Truxtun Park Penguins raise money within our team for entry to the county pool. Teens like Thomas from the Penguins volunteered time to teach swim lessons for those children in the community every Friday night from the end of February to the beginning of May. We taught lessons for all of those children. Any child who showed that they were dedicated to the program and was interested and could swim a length of a 25-yard pool with confidence and competence, which is not easy to do, was offered a scholarship onto the team. Many took advantage of that. 2 went on to take advantage of scholarships for lifeguarding. I've lost where I am in here. So that program was formal outreach. It ran through 2012. I left the city in 2012. The team was then carried by our volunteer parent board They had to figure out how to run the team. Where the city had been running the team, all of a sudden the parent board took 100% responsibility for the team, and they did a fantastic job. Formal outreach was delayed a little bit. They still did recruiting and offered scholarships with the help of the city. But we did begin formal recruiting begin the Splash program again with planning with Tyler Heights Elementary in 2020. 2019. We were all set to launch this program in 2020, but the pandemic hit. We did relaunch Splash in 2022 last year, and as you heard from Thomas, he was one of our volunteers. We had planned to continue that with Georgetown East, Tyler Heights, and Eastport, which is what we would be doing right now if we were given the green light for our team. And I want to wrap up by saying the Truxtun Park Penguins swim team is inclusive, vibrant, and we're a community of strong, confident, and engaged youth. We ask that you continue to allow us to build on the very sturdy foundation that we've created. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Angela McCaller. Is that right? Thank you.
Angela McCauley, 1107 Lake Huron Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. I am the new head coach of the Penguins. A team's mission and a person's coaching philosophy should align. If they don't, it isn't the right fit. I went through a few interviews with the Penguins, but within the first one, I knew this was the team I belonged on because of the people I had met and the team's mission. The team's mission is to provide a healthy and inclusive community that inspires and builds strong, confident, and resilient swimmers. We promote teamwork, diversity, unity, and friendship for all swimmers and their families by taking pride in each other's progress and accomplishments. Before continuing, I would like to reiterate that the team's mission is revolved around giving children a healthy, safe, and inclusive environment. Does it make it harder or easier to work towards that mission without proper resources? My coaching philosophy is similar to the team's mission, but I want to give a more individualized approach. When I coach, I don't just believe in helping create fast swimmers. I believe in inspiring people to be better by providing valuable life skills. The sport taught me things about life, self-motivation, patience, breaking my barriers, understanding what a healthy lifestyle is, and supporting others also encourages my success. I want to pass these lessons along to my athletes and give them a fun and safe experience that this sport gave me. So I'll leave you with this. Would you ask a soccer team to practice on less than half a field? Would you ask a football team to practice without their equipment? Would you ask your own child to complete their homework without proper knowledge or resource? You're currently asking my coaches and myself to encourage, train, and pursue our philosophy in an unsafe and unproductive environment. Swimmers need space to work on their technique, to give them room to prepare for speed. You're asking me to throw over 8 small children in a lane with a hazard of them hitting their heads on each other, running each other over, and swimming on top of one another. You're asking me to put more than 5 13 and overs that are 5 feet or bigger in a lane where they must perform speed work and proper training without running into each other. If this was your child, would you want to give them a fair chance to train and compete? Thank you.
Next up is Katrina Williams.
Hi, good evening. Katrina Williams, 720 Chrisfield Way, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm a resident of Ward 4 and also a member of the City of Annapolis Recreation Advisory Board and a 25-year park and recreation professional. I hesitated to speak this evening as I do not see my other board members here to speak. I know that the board sent forward notes from a meeting that was recently held for your review. However, I was unable to attend. I wanted to make 3 main points as to why I urge you not to support Resolution 2423 for the Penguins swim team. First, I believe that the pool should be open to all residents and not just the swim team, especially during the peak hours of 4 p.m. to close. You would all here be challenged to find a pool manager who would state that this is a normal practice or one that they would gladly support. Yes, I've managed a seasonal ice rink, tennis bubbles, pools, you name it, I've managed it. And I struggle to find time for open skate, freestyle, skate ice show practice, and even ice hockey practice. But we all came to the table and we compromised. Not one style of skating took precedence over the other. Second, I ask that you consider the precedents that you may be setting here this evening, especially for a team that last year was compromised mostly of non-City of Annapolis residents. Have you visited Pip Moyer Gymnasium on a busy evening? Have you seen the basketball classes combined with the open gym and the rentals of the basketball courts? I'm sure it took a great deal of creativity as well as compromise with the teams and the staff there to strike a balance with all parties vying for space. Will it be the intent of this council to be involved in space allocations going forward for other sports? And third, the city has just hired a new and highly qualified director. I urge you to consider what message you are sending to your newly appointed director and all of the qualified staff that the city employs. Swimming is indeed an important wellness, fitness, recreational activity, and competition sport. I believe that the compromised use of 3 lanes of the pool during peak hours is a fair compromise, and that not all 6 lanes should be allocated as the Penguins seek. Allow a lane to be used for classes and pool slide testing. The operation pool should remain open for other community members. Thank you.
Next up, Senator Kellstrom.
Good evening. I'm Sandy Kellstrom of 1212 Poplar Avenue, City of Annapolis, 21401, Ward 2. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. First, I want to thank the City of Annapolis Recreation and Parks for all the work you do and continue to do for the city and its residents. We appreciate all the recreation and leisure opportunities you provide. I also want to thank the city officials for budgeting and investing in the renovations of the Kenneth R. Dunn Municipal Pool at Truxtun Park. Prior to the global pandemic, I was fortunate enough to take swim lessons at the pool, but did not visit in the past 3 years due to the ongoing challenges with the COVID climate. I am hopeful that 2023 will provide more normalcy for many of the residents and anticipate a greater capacity to get outdoors and enjoy our one and only pool in the city of Annapolis. I am here tonight regarding the usage of the pool. It is my understanding that the Penguins swim team would like to utilize 6 laps of the pool during prime hours, Monday through Thursday in the evenings, and scheduled meets on Saturday. The Penguins' request directly impacts the public's ability to access the pool time during prime time recreation hours. Most community members and their families want to participate in recreation, which includes swim time, whether free swim or structured lessons. After work hours, like I previously said, there are many viable options. We can mediate, we can negotiate, we can come to terms where everybody can use the pool. I am for sharing the pool, and with the 6 lanes, if 3 lanes were allotted to the Penguins, then Recreation and Parks would be able to offer swim classes to people learning to swim or improve their swimming skills, whereas the Penguins are already meet the criteria for being swimmers within their swim team. This would allow residents many learning opportunities. Also, if there were 4 lanes allotted, this would allow for all the amenities to be open to the pool to operate to the public by keeping 1 lane open for swim testing for the slide, and then 1 lane for adult swim. But if we offered 4 lanes, there wouldn't be any swim classes to be offered. Again, I think there could be a win-win for everybody, and it doesn't have to be one side or the other. We can come to a fair negotiation. Also, when I went to the Penguins to review a website regarding eligibility criteria, it was not listed that I needed to be a City of Annapolis resident or an Annapolis resident, and I was not able to find out that information as well as scholarships. I do want to leave with one note. Allow the public to come make their big splash this summer, too. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next up is Craig Kelstrom.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Craig Kelstrom. I live at 1212 Poplar Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401 in Ward 2. I'm here tonight to briefly talk about the use of the Kenneth Dunn Pool at Truxtun Park. The Recreation Parks Department and staff operate a great system of recreation amenities for the city residents. I use almost every one of them on a frequent basis. And they do that for the people outside the city as well, maybe at a different price. However, with 1 pool in the city limit and many people wanting to access the pool, there has to be common ground for everyone. My understanding is the Penguin swim team would like to utilize the entire pool. I don't think that's fair to the public who want to come in at the same time, during prime time. The common ground here would be to use half the pool for the swim team, allowing the other half to be utilized by the public. That's a win-win for everybody. Another model could be alternating dates for use by the swim team and the public. I believe the Recreation and Parks Department has already offered this to the team, and they did not want that. My hope is that an amenable solution can be agreed upon, allowing utilization of the pool to its fullest extent for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next up, Andrea Barnes.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Barnes. I live at 287 Hillsmere Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403. Up until recently, I felt like I was a member of the community, even though I live a couple hundred yards outside the city limits. Recently, during this experience, I feel a divide is coming between county and city residents that makes me very uncomfortable. I joined my children, Marini and Robert, joined the Penguin swim team when we lived at the Naval Academy. My husband was active duty Marine Corps. He retired from the Marine Corps, and we've loved the city of Annapolis, the community of Annapolis, so much that we decided to stay here permanently. We bought a house in Hillsmere to make our home. We chose to stay with the Penguins rather than join the Hillsmere neighborhood swim team. We chose to stay with the Penguins because of Jen Bistrak and the program that she developed, the community program, that my kids have friends from all over the city or the county. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that they're participating in a program that's for everybody and is not associated just with a neighborhood. I grew up swimming my entire life. My dad was a swim coach. My grandfather was a swim coach at public high schools and in community summer swim teams. There were no private clubs anybody could join. We come to Annapolis and we are one vote away of not having that anymore, and I think that's really tragic. As far as the 3 lanes versus the 6 lanes, I don't know all the ins and outs of all this negotiation. I know there's been substantial negotiation and attempts to compromise. I also know that the swim team, as of today, is not asking for 6 lanes. I don't know what the proposal on the table is right now, but it is not for 6 lanes. As far as 3 lanes, I'm going to give my own opinion, but I think I would be backed up by anybody on the board or in the swimming world. You cannot run a swim program for 140 kids with 3 lanes. It can't be done. So it's not a matter of compromise. It's a matter of whether we run the team or not, if that is the proposed compromise. Again, I'm speaking my own opinion here, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty valid. I hope that the board, I hope the council supports the team. I love Hillsmere. We love living in Hillsmere, but I love this team more, the outreach that we have, the community that we have, and I hate the idea that suddenly there's a county-city line where all it matters is who pays what taxes. The board is developing a scholarship program to give scholarships. You're not going to get that at these other pools. It costs us $500 to join the pool. I don't even know how much it costs to add to do the swim team in addition. So please consider voting for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly Lane.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kelly Lane, and I reside at 3203 Black Walnut Drive in Annapolis. I have been an educator for over 25 years and have extensive knowledge in the academic and social emotional well-being of children. As educators, we know the value of team sports and the plethora of outcomes associated with them. Physically, we know we have record numbers of obesity and sedentary lifestyles with our youth. Swimming increases healthy habits and decreases risk of diseases and illnesses. It also positively impacts school attendance. Mentally, since COVID, we all know our youth is experiencing record numbers of mental health issues. Swimming decreases stress, anxiety, and depression. It increases self-esteem, focus, and energy. Socially, we have record numbers of violence and isolationism. Swimming fosters team building, compromise, collaboration, and friendship. Swim teams garner life lessons that prepare them for the real world: hard work, tenacity, respect for self and others, team building, conflict resolution, and leadership opportunities. During COVID, I saw a very dire need in the underrepresented communities. Specifically, I worked in Harbor House and Eastport Terrace. I am here fighting for those children. I have done outreach and I continue to do it even though COVID has dissipated. Those children need a voice. Those children need us to speak for them. We talk about children not having outlets. This is a perfect example. The Penguins and I are working on getting scholarships for these children. We are working on getting swim drives so that they have swimsuits available to them. This is a critical element for the children in these communities. Given the aforementioned benefits, imagine how powerful it would be for this team, that isn't just one neighborhood team like all the others, but an amalgamation of many communities and different schools of different socioeconomic structures, races, ages, coming together as one cohesive unit. The physical, mental, social, and life lessons are greatly enhanced as we meet new people versus only associating with others that look and live like we do. Perhaps the greatest life lesson of all. In these troubled times, how can we restrict these precious children from these rich opportunities? Thank you.
Thank you. Pearl Alexander next.
Hi again. My name is Pearl Alexander. My address is 35 Enclave Court, Ward 5. This is Zara DeMay. She helped me write my speech. I have made many friends over the 3 years I've been with the Penguins, and this year will be my 4th. They helped me gain confidence in and out of the water, which made me a very faster swimmer than I was, where I used to be living. And I think we can all agree that the coaches are the best. To all the hardworking coaches and the parents, thank you so much for your hard work. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for letting me speak with you.
Next up is Bertina Taylor. Going once, going twice. Okay. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak?
Eric Moran, 2912 Boyd's Cove Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. I am not a city resident, but I have been a part of the Truxtun Park Penguins for the past 10 years. I've been a team manager for 8+ years. Unfortunately, this year I've taken a step back in my role because last year was very exhausting with the changes from the new pool and so forth. Unfortunately, I was hoping this year would be a little bit different in how the city and the Penguins work together. However, I'm deeply saddened that it really hasn't improved. I do have some clarifications and I do have some updates on registration numbers. Here are the current registration numbers for this season. We have 112 swimmers confirmed. 62 of those are non-city residents, 50 are city residents. That equates to 45% city residents. We would like to offer additional scholarships to the community. We are currently strapped and capped to the number of swimmers based on the number of lanes that the city is willing to provide us. We have never asked for the full pool. We would like the full pool, but we have never asked for the full 6 lanes. We have previously, the old pool was 5 lanes. We have never required more than that. Last year, we had 5 lanes. 1 lane was open for slide tests for those swimmers that were interested in going off the slide, and it was open to lap swimmers, I assume, but I don't know for sure. I rarely ever saw a lap swimmer in that last lane when I was attending practice. If we are able to fit 8 to 13 swimmers per lane, and we only have 4 or 5, that gives you 8 to 16 lap swimmers in 1 or 2 lanes. We have never mandated or demanded that we receive everything. We have been collaborating with the city. We have tried to work out a deal. The city originally agreed to 5 lanes. The only reason we're here is the city came back and said, no, you can have 3. But they had already agreed to the 5. That is what makes me sad, is the back and forth. We have an agreement in place, and now that agreement isn't good. Sorry, I get emotional because I've devoted my life to this swim team for 10 years. I'm not a city resident, but they are my team. My kids are part of a bigger community. They become friends with pretty much everyone within the city of Annapolis and outside of the city of Annapolis. They're in high school now, and when we go to high school meets, we cheer on every single Penguin regardless of which high school team they're on. My daughter will sit there and cheer for Glenn Newell, who swims for Annapolis High, and she swims for South River. That's the type of community that we're building with the children that can participate in the Penguins. And that is the most important thing. Thank you.
There was one on the back here. Zoe Anderson, please come forward.
My name is Zoe Anderson. I live at 3101 Katrina Lane. I'm here to talk about my swim team. On the swim team, we have fun, make new friends, and learn so many different things. If we only have 2 or 3 lanes, someone could get kicked in the head and trampled on. If we don't have a place to swim, we won't have a swim team. Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Please come forward. Thank you. You can only speak once, sir. Yeah.
Okay, that little girl's a hard act to follow. My name is Stephen Alexander. I live at 35 Enclave Court in Ward 5, 21403. I know we've heard from a lot of people today, a lot of experts, a lot of people who are on the swim team, support the swim team, and other citizens and such. A couple things I have not heard mentioned. We did hear the number of people we have registered. It's over 110. I did some math. I'm also on the board, so I was able to look at the registration. We were able to figure out that 70% of our swimmers are within 5 miles of the pool. So some of them are outside of the city limits, but they're really, really close to the pool. The other thing is, if anyone here has had kids or has kids now, you'll know that registering for camps, you have to do early. It's done. It's locked in. So for a lot of folks, we cannot suddenly change our times for practice and expect these families, a lot of them are working families, to suddenly throw their schedules in chaos to try to make our swim practices that we have had locked in for years. This is something that our families, our swimmers have known about for a long time. It is not just the case of like, hey, we're not willing to negotiate and all that. We are totally, and I think we can find other arrangements, but this close to the season kicking off, it's just not, doesn't feel like it's in good faith. It feels like you're a switch, a bait and switch, or as I said earlier, moving the goalpost of success. We have a lot of people counting on this team. We have a lot of families counting on this team. We have a lot of people who have already registered for this team. They expect the practices, the times that they are. We are in the city. We are close to the city if the people who aren't. We heard earlier about folks that work, may live elsewhere, but work here in the city. I'm sure many of our families are the same. So we are part of this community. I implore you to let us have the 5 lanes so we can have safe swimming for our kids. Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Appointments. Let me see. Got appointments here?
Yep.
Appointments, yes. AP 723, Board of Port Wardens, Jonathan McCopp.
Could I get a motion to approve AP 7-23?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar. Supplemental appropriations under $50,000, SA 2523.
Any objections to the consent calendar? I'd entertain a motion.
No? Okay, never mind.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous, ID 8323. Alderwoman Sheila Finlayson requests for remote meeting participation on April 27th.
Could I get a motion to approve ID 83-23?
Second.
Second, thank you. Alderman Gay.
I just had a quick question. I'm supporting this. The Robert's Rules of Order has explicit rules for voting by mail or electronically, etc. And so do we have to recognize that at all in this?
Mr. City
Like
Attorney.
there's a procedure on how to vote by email, a procedure on how to vote electronically.
You have a code section that says that remote participation is allowable upon vote, and if the participation is allowed by the council, then everything related to participation is appropriate.
So this would just overrule all of that?
I'm just answering the question.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, please. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Finlayson, did you want to suspend the rules or something?
Mr.
Mayor, I'd like
No, it's not yet. Not yet. I apologize. Sorry. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with O1423.
Anyone here speak on that?
I don't believe it. No one? Do we have any speakers?
Anybody here to speak on O-14-23, please come forward. Nope. No one signed up to speak.
So noted.
I'm going to declare the public hearing on O-14-23 left open. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is first readers, legislative action first readers, beginning with ordinance O-1623, Annapolis City Council remote meeting attendance.
Sorry, Alderman Finlayson. Is there a motion to adopt O-16-23 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This was what I was referring to. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it.
So, here we go now.
Suspending the rules.
Yep. Could I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, can I get a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Can I get another motion?
Mr. Mayor, move to approve O-1623.
Second.
It's a roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you. Good luck with your father.
thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda for first reader is O-1723, administration, requiring the city manager to provide staffing impact statements on pending legislation.
Could I get a motion for O-17-23?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Can I refer O-17-23 to Rules of City Government Committee?
Just a quick comment on that.
Alderman Savage?
I noted that this legislation was not actually posted on Legistar when I was going through the agenda on Sunday. There's an entry for it, but there's no legislation actually posted. So I actually wanted to abstain from the vote because I had not actually had a chance to read that.
Madam City Clerk?
You can abstain if we did a roll call, but it was a voice vote.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
I can note
but I just want to make
that
that
you
note.
want to. Okay. And it was not uploaded to the agenda. We uploaded it when we noticed that it was not there.
Thank you for pointing that out. Alderman Savage, it is
Thank you.
uploaded now.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is resolutions. First reader, beginning with R 2723, support for Anne Arundel County's free gun locks program.
Is there a motion to adopt R-27-23 on first reader?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Alderman Savage.
Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you.
I also am added on as a co-sponsor. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Thank you.
Well, it's just going to pass, but maybe an amendment, Alderwoman. In the counties and all of their literature, they have also a note just reminding people not to bring their gun to the actual library. And maybe that should be here somewhere.
Thank you. Okay, Alderman Tierney.
Oh, I just want to mention, I saw Mr. Skip Old at Sprout. Anyways, he said that the applications or whatever they have to do is overwhelming, and they are keeping up with it. But everything, I mean, it's good news and bad news in a way that so many people need them. But he just was very just great feedback.
Response. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're supporting the county action. Is there a time sensitivity here? And if so,
Mr. City Manager. Any sign? Are you aware of this?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I was out saying low to Jen this track. He was here when I was here before.
Is there a time sensitivity to R-23-23 support for Anne Arundel County free gun locks program? Did anyone know that?
I do not know the timing of their legislation, so we'd have to find out. I suppose the clerk could through the county.
Okay, yeah.
I would propose to the council that time is of the essence, so I didn't discuss this with anyone, but I would propose we suspend the rules.
Okay, I'll vote this through and then we can motion that.
Second.
All those in favour say aye for the first vote, please. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
I move
suspend the rules.
Resolution 27-23 on second reading.
We have to suspend the rules. Thank you.
Suspend the rules first.
I thought we voted to suspend.
No, that was first reader.
Suspend the rules. I move to suspend the rules.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
I move R 27-23 on second reading or final.
Second.
It's a roll call.
You roll call.
Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, second readers. Charter amendment is the first item, CA 222, Board of Supervisors of Election for the purpose of expanding the board.
23 or 22?
22. That charter amendment is on there. It's Alderman Arnett's legislation, and it's on there because there was a motion at the previous meeting for the council not to vote on it until after the task force has its findings submitted. So the timing ran out. So we wanted
Is there
to.
another task force in there?
The point of
The Board
order,
of Elections has a task force.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Savage.
Sorry, so are you saying that task force concluded?
No, your previous amendment was to postpone it for 90 days. So to give the task force time to render its findings, but the task force findings won't be submitted until September, so you need to postpone it further.
So
could we
I
get
think
a
I'm one of
motion?
the co-sponsors. I don't know if we want to just withdraw this or postpone again.
Yeah.
That's not.
Postpone it.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Well, it might change depending on what
It's beyond 90 days.
It is beyond.
it might change also depending on what the task force comes up with. It could be,
So you're making a motion to withdraw?
yeah, we'll start over, I think.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
I
I'll
get a
move.
second?
It's going to be a lot
Sure,
of
legislation, okay.
Sponsors are voting.
The motion to withdraw for CA 2-23 or 22?
CA 2-22.
CA 2-22.
CA 222.
Okay. Alderman Finlayson, did you have a question?
No, I was just, couldn't hear clearly
Thank you.
what the motion was, so.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda of second reader is 0923, adequate public facilities, mitigation of police protection level certification requirements.
Is there a motion to adopt O-9-23 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
I just had a question. Any movement on the one that we had presented in the work session from the
workload study?
Yeah.
We had discussed that at the Finance Committee meeting this morning. We're looking for it to be started and completed by the end of this calendar year.
For the
workload study. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm actually, are we on 923?
Right.
Yep, 923.
Yeah. I'm asking, I remember there was at least two pieces of legislation, right, for the mitigation. Didn't we have a work session where she presented the?
Alderman Savage.
It got pulled.
You,
Okay.
You know what he's talking about?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Mayor. At the work session, we were discussing two different approaches, but I think we ended up only moving forward with one, which was this one. I also, though, I hate to do this, but from what I recall, actually, there were some proposed amendments from the law office which fell off my radar. I wanted to consider as far as tweaking this from Ms. Berger, and so that I dropped the ball on that one. So I don't know if that's something we should, if the council would want to postpone, so we could look at those amendments to see if we want to incorporate those. I don't know if you had any information on that, Mr.
I'm sending Tara around your house. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, our tweaks are probably more substantive than this, and so I would say they operate independent of each other. So you can pass this if you want to.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't mean the overall tweaks to the APF. I mean specific to this piece of legislation and to the policing. I thought there was...
No.
Okay, maybe
Nothing.
I was confused. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
We were good.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
I thought there was just some stuff that we should have, it was very small language stuff. So you're saying that we can pass this tonight and then just follow up with that? Like, it was like little stuff like, for example, says the chief of police shall require mitigation, and I think we should have changed maybe some verbiage there or something. It was just like 3 or 4 things. But so we can come back with those though, right?
You can, because I haven't seen the changes. Everything that I looked at is in the current bill.
Okay, so you have a motion and a second. Alderman Pendle-Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think once we have the workload study reviewed and completed, there may be some changes anyway.
Yeah.
So we may as well wait for that as well. We can pass this in the meantime, in the interim, but once the workload study comes, we can review that and determine what may need to be changed.
Thank you. Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. Was this initiated to expedite the Willows? I'm a little confused. I mean, is this meant to be a long-term solution or just a short-term solution?
I'll get Alderman Savage's
loaded
answer on
question.
This was not, I think the Willows brought this to our attention, but really the first one that brought this to our attention as far as the deficiencies with how the code's currently written is actually Eastport, the shopping center, whatever that's called, redevelopment of that shopping center. But the way this is worded is that it's not catered to any particular project. It's just worded in general to clarify that there are going to be 2 tracks that can be done separately or together as far as meeting the mitigation. Because as Ms. Schuett also mentioned, and as I think that the legal case mentioned from Eastport, the current mitigation language was the judge felt was not sufficient for the police APF. And so we had to expand upon that. And that's what this does, is expand upon it so they can go towards either the, I think it's worded the enforcement arm, which would be more traditional security. I think it said security enhancements, which would be like cameras, private security, or going the track of enhancing social services. And that's at the discretion of the chief and city manager as far as if it's a combination of the two. So yeah, it's meant for everything. It's going to apply to every project that has to comply with our APF.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me, I hope it's a short-term solution, if it is in fact a solution. I must say I've gotten a surprising amount of pushback on this legislation in two different ways. One I find a little hard to understand, but I've been getting arguments that this is a de facto defunding of the police. I would be surprised if any member of this council would be in favor of any kind of defunding of the police. In fact, I think the entire history of this council is that we've always given police and in fact public safety everything they've asked for. I don't think we've ever cut back. Maybe fire got a hit when we were in our financial difficulties back in 2009 or 10, whatever it was. But I hope no one construes this as defunding the police. Now, the other argument that I've been hearing is that this is pro-development. And it would be hard to argue that it isn't, in the sense that it is giving the chief of police more options to find ways to say that there are adequate mitigations to the proposed developments that are in the pipeline. But in my view, the chief has to find those mitigations. This gives some examples of what those mitigations are. I would presume if this is passed, the chief of police it'll be incumbent upon the chief to respond to one of these three options, saying we can't meet the 3.2 ratio, but we have found other ways that, in his view, we can meet the public safety, the policing requirements of the city. So this allows that flexibility. It does not permit any particular development, at least not in my view, and I'm putting this out to my colleagues on the council. This allows other ways for the chief to find mitigation in what I hope is a temporary way until we get the workload study and get a more permanent fix. The 3.2, and I was the only one on the council now, I can't remember whether you were part of it or not, Sheila, but the 3.2 was fine when we put it into code. But in recent times, it has been hard for police, and this is for several years now, to meet that code. I think that there are other ways that we can satisfactorily meet the adequacy of policing if the chief so finds it to be mitigated in that way. So again, I'm listening to pushback that I'm getting from constituents. I don't think we're defunding the police. I do think that this offers some flexibility, but I do feel that the chief is going to have to come back and satisfactorily say that the adequate facilities is mitigated. And that's the second step here.
Thank you. Alderman Kendall Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to the arguments that you have made tonight from your constituents, number one, as far as defund the police, one need only look at the fiscal year 24 budget that the police presented this morning. I think that dispels that argument. The other thing is once we look at the workload study, and basically the chief has indicated that more than likely we're going to need more police than I think it's the 124. So that's going to probably increase as well. So we'll probably have more police officers that we're going to need, at least based on the workload study. And based on that, and we talked about it, touched on it a little bit this morning, there's going to be more of, I think, an aggressive recruitment strategy. I think we're going to do more when it comes to that phase of policing. And we're going to come back again to this ordinance and looking at everything once the workload study is completed. So this is, I wouldn't say, definitely wouldn't say it's not defund the police. Pro-development, no, because if we put the measures in place now, and then we find out we need more police officers, and we do hire more police officers, then in my estimation, those mitigation efforts now we may not even need them because we'll have more officers. So that's my argument.
So if I may respond, Mr. Mayor.
Annette.
Thank you for that, Alderwoman Pendle Charles. That is the other thing that I've been getting from constituents, and I understand what they're saying. They're saying, why don't you redouble your efforts to fill those vacant positions? It's my impression that police and HR, and I'll turn to the city manager, have been working very hard to fill those positions. I don't think anyone wants those positions not to be filled. I think that there are some things we could consider at budget time in terms of recruiting and retention bonuses that could help fill the ranks more full. I do question whether we can get up to the full current complement, which is at 128 now. So I think that adding these other ways of assuring that we have adequacy to the code is something that we need to consider doing.
And I think too that touting our city as being a safe city and a good quality of life city, I think helps tremendously, especially if an officer is bringing his or her family here. So I think that's a great recruiting tool as well. But all over the nation, we all know that recruitment is really a challenge. But I think we have some very great assets here and resources that we can utilize to do that work.
So in sum, would you say that even if this was passed, we're not going to stop our efforts to recruit?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to call a question, but I just also want to add that we have been budgeted for 124 officers, at least since I've been on this council, which is 4 years. So it's not a question of if the city has the funding to pay for the officers. As they all mentioned, and we've beat a dead horse over this every single fiscal year, it is hard to recruit police officers. So this has nothing to do with us not having the funding or us not wanting to get officers. And so I'll call the question because, I mean, this is a small piece of legislation to fix a bigger issue, but we always circle back to this, as the mayor alluded to in the beginning. And so can we
call the question? Yep.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's vote on a motion to adopt O-9-23 on second reader.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Could I get a motion to adopt O-9-23 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-1123, changes to the Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County.
So a motion to adopt O-11-23 on second reader.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt O-11-23 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O5522 for second reader.
Is there a motion to adopt O-55-22?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have one amendment.
Sorry?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the amendment there.
No. Vote on no second reading.
Okay, Okay.
And then you still have third reading.
sorry, I apologise. Okay, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Savage, if you want to move the amendment.
Yeah, and just want to clarify this. The Savage Amendment 1 is updated from Environmental Matters, or is there another one I should be referencing?
Everybody have the amendment?
Well, the amendments, Environmental Matters,
We'll just get a second on that to move it, please.
second.
Thank you.
well, I'm trying to figure out which one to move.
We only have once.
It's not, okay, there's not much change. What should I reference, though? The updated Savage Amendment 1, which includes, how many? 12 sub-amendments within that.
12 amendments in the one amendment?
Yes.
12 different sections.
I can,
of the code.
Okay, yeah.
I don't need to go in huge detail, but I can explain where they came from.
It-
Was that seconded already?
Rob.
Was that seconded already?
Yep, got a second, yep.
The amendment was?
So just explain where these amendments came from. They came from, first, discussions with Public Works and with the committee. So the amendments, the goal of them is to essentially make it more manageable and for Public Works, for the staff, yet also while meeting the goal of the legislation itself. Now, one of them, and this is more of a comment for Environmental Matters, one of the amendments we did change, but through conversation with Law Office and with Public Works, realized it was a critical piece. So when I went back and met with Public Works to adjust that one amendment, we reworded it to essentially address the underlying concern, which was clarifying storm events, but also actually making it more discretionary on Public Works' end and also only having it apply to larger projects. Bottom line is trying to make it more manageable. And so that's why I ended up combining these into one, if it makes sense. If people want me to explain what the legislation does beyond that, I'm happy to do so.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does this sort of kind of address the issues that we had at Parkside Preserve?
Yes, and
Okay.
some of the some of the issues have already been addressed by the department, and this helps to further codify and makes it a part of our inspection procedures. It also institutes a brand new fee.
Thank you.
Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I address the Alderman? I thought much of our discussion was about the definition of rainfall event. So was that one of the items that was changed by the law department? So can you tell us what the new language is?
Yeah. So the new language of rainfall event stays the same, but the associated language in the code that outlines that uses that term. So, for example, the code, the legislation mentions that inspectors. At first, how it's worded, it said inspectors shall inspect the receiving waters after a rain event. So that means, after it rains, they should go out and inspect the water, see if there's been a discharge of pollution. And so there was some discussion at the committee about that definition. And so I had to go back and change that, and we changed it to say that, so instead of requiring that on all projects, because that would have been very time consuming and certainly wasn't my intention, what it does is say that it should happen on only the larger projects that have active grading. So that reduces the amount of projects that are going to have to, where the inspectors are going to have to look at the receding waterways. And so that's the thing. That was the one mistake we realized. I know it's probably confusing. The one mistake we realized we made in committee was that we didn't also change that other section, so they were conflicting. That's why we had to come back and make a mesh.
I recall our discussion evolving around whether a half inch was actually a rainfall event within a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So was there a change of that to a 1 inch?
No, it's still the half-inch storm event. Because that's, we went back, and that's the average storm event here, which we thought was still going to be appropriate to use.
So was that the standard in other, for example, the county code, that a half inch qualifies, or whatever standard that's used to determine or to define a rainfall event, is a half inch is the norm? That was what we were supposed to find out about.
I don't know if the county actually uses this definition. Let me see if I can find out. But this definition originally of half inch is what Public Works proposed to me when crafting this amendment.
You said it's not what Public Works
It was originally when I put these amendments together. I mean, the underlying goal with our discussion at the committee was making sure that staff wasn't going to be overburdened by having to inspect the receding waters after, if it rains like this weekend every day. They wouldn't have to do that every day. So it was altered to make it clear that the rain event standard is still going to apply, but only going to be implemented on a discretionary basis, but also only for these larger project sites. So it could be done either during the rain event or after. So for example, towards the end of this week, we're supposed to get rain Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They'd be able to go out on Monday and do their inspections on the larger projects and still meet the intention.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although I totally understand the intent of this legislation, I find it very unfortunate that we have to legislate this, and then also that it is in reaction to one project that had very subpar stormwater control installation. I don't understand why we're not getting this criteria from the site engineer that produces the documents. The documents should spell out, that the receiving water should be reviewed. It's in the interest of the contractor that his work or her work is not lost. For example, I used the project of the hotel on Taylor Avenue that has a great stormwater installation. In their case, the receiving waters of Spa Creek are, just across the street. But I saw after rainfall, those guys or women are out there checking their work, checking their installations to make sure that everything is in place. The onus should be on them if they're a quality contractor. We have enough laws on the books as far as NDE and others that, again, I find this very unfortunate. And from a practical standpoint, I had talked to Rob about this. If I'm on the other end, if I am a contractor looking at these documents, you want to look and understand what your limit of disturbance is and your limits of construction. You ultimately have to price the project and your scope of work. This would make it very difficult unless it is defined on the document. So again, it gets back to the site. The site engineer who stamps the documents should have that identified, and it should be priced. I see no reason why we have to have it in our code. It's very unfortunate that we have to do so.
I have a simple question. Are these amendments the amendments that make the legislation good according to you and according to our discussion with Public Works? These 12 amendments?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Just a quick response to Alderwoman Tierney. So that was one thing we got into at the committee. At the last meeting, Public Works brought the checklist they use, and the checklist is what the contractor engineers use as far as what needs to be included in the plans. And so on that, it does mention that they need to show the receiving waters, and it also mentions having to outline phases on the plan. So they already have to show those things on the plan. And that's something I didn't realize last time we spoke. And so I definitely hear you on that. But I also want to point out that that's only one of the changes that this legislation would implement. It would, so there's the inspection fee for the milestone inspections, which would be about 2 or 3 per project. And then it also requires that for larger projects, the state standard is that the state standard is all projects only need to inspect on an average of every 2 weeks. And so what the legislation would do is change it so that for larger project sites where there's active grading, that they would need to be inspected once a week for those big projects. And so there are a number of other improvements that it makes as far as, allowing and requiring the inspectors to take photo evidence to help with enforcement. It would state that the inspectors should be clarifying past deficiencies that haven't been unresolved or haven't been resolved yet. And so those are things to help improve the whole enforcement process.
Thank you. Alderman Tierney?
Just quickly, is the intent of this legislation more so that we require our inspectors to get out there, that we need to put this in the code because we're not confident that our inspectors go out there after a rain event or et cetera to check the work that's per code?
Well, so part of it is to increase our standards because these larger project sites like we've found out with like the Reserve at Quietwaters and some of these others require more frequent inspections. And staff did increase their inspections on larger sites, but this just simply codifies it. And so that it's going to be perpetual into the future. Now, that's also something where I also hear you, some of these things should be shown in the plans, but even in rules and regulations. But the way this code is adopted, it's adopted based on a model ordinance from the state. And so there's a certain level of details what the state expects to be seen in the sediment control, but also stormwater code.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion to amend O-55-22 on second reader. All those, Alderman Finlayson, sorry?
State of unreadiness, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
I said state of unreadiness.
Sorry.
We're voting on the amendments.
On the amendments. Is it too late or do?
Oh, we went one at a time? No, as a group.
Amendment 1.
Yeah. Yep.
Which has 12 parts to it.
But you're not ready, Alderman Finlayson. We're waiting for you, yeah.
I just have a question because what I'm looking at on our iPads in Granicus and what I'm looking at with the hard copy we just received don't jive. So I'm just trying to see where we are, and I'm looking under grading permits, for example. Under C, under grading permits, there's no number 2 on this document, strike out or not. So I need to know what we're voting on.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to Regina. Mr. City Attorney? So why does that not gel, please?
There are two different, the amendment that's in Granicus is a previous version. The paper version is the latest from Alderman Savage.
And I think Alderman Savage moved the newest version. That's what he moved, which is the one in your hand.
I think he will see that there's some things missing.
Yeah,
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there is a discrepancy. I see what you're talking about. So for C, reinspection fee, the one we have in front of us in paper strikes out code that should not be stricken. Let's postpone. We
I think we should postpone if you
might
could,
need to
please.
postpone, yeah.
Do you want to read this? This is the.
Is this time sensitive, Alderman?
No.
So can we send it back to committee to review and make sure everything is intact that you want in this legislation?
Yes, yeah, I'll take another look.
So that would be to postpone it until after the next Rules Committee meeting?
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
fine.
So-
I was thinking of sending it back to Environmental Matters, but sure.
Who's
So-
reviewing?
Or rules, either one.
We could send it back.
You know.
Alderman, can you get a motion to
Right,
table
it
it?
was only
Alderman
environmental
Savage?
No, because that'll kill it.
To a date, yeah.
Move to table until
Sent to Environmental Matters.
our next council meeting, I guess.
Will that get it to the committees? Is there enough time for committee?
I don't know, when's the next environmental matters?
May the 8th is the next meeting.
May the 8th.
Gives enough time?
The next city council meeting is on the 10th.
Maybe 10.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong meeting.
So you need to postpone it for 30 days and have the opportunity for it to come back to Environmental Matters.
Yes, this is the most updated. but
The
it's-
next city council meeting is on the
Something is
8th.
missing from this.
I'll-
What?
You can't have them out and testify.
Can we make it 30 days, Alderman Savage? Yeah.
30 days, okay. Table it for 30 days. I'll move to table for 30 days.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Meeting of May 22nd.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
And then try to get it together by the 8th.
Postpone to refer it back to environmental.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the next item is a resolution, R 1823, nonprofit vendors during fall 2023 boat shows.
Could I get a motion to adopt R-18-23 on second reader?
So moved.
Could I get a second? Thank you. Alderman
Is
Gay.
this just premature? This is for October. They don't plan on changing the list at all? No? I
Sorry.
said, is this premature? This is for October.
No, this is
Says fall date.
fall boat show. Oh, sorry, yeah, you're right.
It says October, yeah, 23.
I mean, it's usually through the
Okay.
churches and,
Yeah, just so they know.
They start recruiting about now.
Get the hot dog out the way.
roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
And Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, it's resolution R 1523.
Is there a motion to adopt R-15-23 on second reader?
So moved.
So you got postponed it too?
We're going to do this, we'll get this one out of the way and come back to that. Yeah. Get a motion and a second, please. This is R-15-23, scheduled update for milestone inspection in ordinance.
That's the associated fee.
Huh?
Well, I guess, should I just move to table this with the other legislation?
Yeah, they're
Thank you.
055.
They're companions.
It's their companion.
30 days, same.
I don't have it. I can't find it.
It was
What-
added at the beginning of the agenda.
It's the fee schedule.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, can
Thank
I
you.
get a second, please, for
Second.
that?
Because we
To
voted on
postpone.
it.
Yeah. Table it.
Second.
Second, okay, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is Resolution R 2423, support for Penguin swim team practices and meets at Kenneth Dunn Municipal Swimming Pool.
Can I get a motion to adopt R-24-23 on second reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Up for discussion, Alderman Savage. Alderman Gay before Alderman Savage.
I mean, it's your legislation. Oh, okay. I do have a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and possibly a friendly amendment on the floor. The pool closes at 7 or 6:30?
8.
So the pool closes at 8?
Yeah, at 7:45, I think. Yeah.
7:45, okay. Because, so if they can't use the pool in the morning hours, I'm assuming that has been passed off. Are we able to make, I mean, and what I had a conversation with the alderman about is, let's give them the pool. All right, so the pool closes at 8. Let's give them the pool starting at 7. So they go from, 7 to like 8:30. Obviously, we can extend the time through this resolution and extend the fee. Waive the fee. The council can do that. But they're not going to do it in the mornings. We're not going to give them 5 lanes in prime time. So that means from, 4:30-ish to 6:30. So are we just able to allow them to utilize the pool during the last hour and then for 30 minutes afterwards? So they'd have an hour and a half of practice. I mean, it doesn't.
So I'll ask the city manager to give us some clarification. And I think everybody's here to speak today, so that those questions can be answered. But for the director, when she comes up, I think Alderman Savage had a presentation first. Though.
Yeah, okay.
No?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I do believe the director could answer those questions during her presentation.
Okay.
So she has a presentation. So everybody has presentation.
Alderman Savage has a presentation, so you don't have a presentation? Okay. So, Mr. City Manager, will come forward, please. Can we get the director up here on your presentation? Thank you.
Okay, do you want me to introduce?
Please, yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm City Manager Michael Malinoff. The discussion around R2423 reminds me of the quote I like to use at the beginning of the budget season. Governing is the process of determining the allocation of limited resources. In this case, we're deciding on the use of a new publicly funded swimming pool. To that end, I'd like to invite our new Director of Recreation and Parks, Roz Johnson, and new President of the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City.
And 1 second. To present our staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening. For the record, Rosalind Johnson, Director of Recreation and Parks. And I want to start off by thanking everyone who presented tonight. We certainly agree with them, so that makes everything much easier. We agree that swimming is important. We agree that the history of the Penguins are important. We agree that children being able to swim on a swim team is important. We agree. But I think in this case, it's a both-and situation, and that's my favorite option, both-and. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So first off, our mission at Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department is to enrich the quality of life by providing recreational, educational, and wellness programs and facilities, parks, and waterways. And that's for all 40,000 Annapolitans, but also any visitors as well. And I was remiss in not introducing the person who's to my right. Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Rafiq, and I am the Community Fitness and Aquatic Supervisor for the City of Annapolis.
And so our goal is to expose youth and adults to as many recreational opportunities as possible, sparking an interest for further cultivation. So as a department, we cannot favor soccer over swimming. We can't favor basketball over baseball. We have to treat them all equally. It's kind of like when you have children, you can't love one more than the other. You love them all equally, even though they may be different, but you love them all the same. And we have an increased initiative of opening up water access to everyone with 17 miles of waterfront right here in the city of Annapolis. Depending on which studies you look at, African Americans are anywhere from 5 to 7 times, and Hispanic Americans are 5 times more likely to drown than their Caucasian counterparts. And that's important because we have a role as a Recreation and Parks Department to be able to teach this life-saving skill, this lifelong life-saving skill, to as many residents as possible here in the city of Annapolis. Drowning is one of the top 5 causes of death for people between 1 to 14 years of age, and the source for that is the World Health Organization. We have limited resources here in the city of Annapolis. We have one outdoor pool that we operate for 12 weeks, and that outdoor pool currently does not have any lighting, so we only have the daylight hours in which we can program and open the pool to the public. The department also currently has no in-house sports, recreation, and parks teams. So that's important to note as well. We have other organizations that utilize our facilities and their teams that depend on the resources that we have, but we do not have any teams that we call our own as much as we'd like to. And again, we have many people who utilize our fields and our facilities. So the Penguin swim team is comprised last year of 53 Annapolitans and 87 non-residents. They collect their own registration fees. They did the heavy lifting of becoming a 501c3. And what that allows them to do is be able to permit the facility. In other words, be able to use the actual swimming pool. That gives them priority as well. If they had not been an organization, they would not be able to utilize the pool. If they were a for-profit, then they would not have priority over a nonprofit organization. So that helps them move up in the pecking order as far as being able to utilize a facility. They are separate from the department. They're a private team. They hold tryouts and they're selective. And it's important to note, and we heard some people share earlier, but in order to be on the swim team, you have to be able to swim. Last year, the department gave 2 refunds to participants who could not swim to the level they needed to in order to be on the swim team. And our research initially showed that they take children up to 12 who at a minimum have to be able to swim the length of a pool already. Older youth have to be able to swim multiple lengths of the pool and do various strokes. Tonight we learned that they have children up to youth up to 18 years old. The Kenneth R. Dunn Municipal Pool, the new pool reopened, the new pool, in the summer of 2020, August 1st, 2020 to be exact. It's important to note during that time we were in the midst of COVID, so we did not have a full swim season. We also had COVID restrictions. Then 2021, we opened up for more of a full swim season, but we still had COVID restrictions. Last summer, 2022, was the first time that we did not have COVID restrictions in effect. And it was the first full season that residents actually got to know and come and visit the pool full-fledged, full-on. The COVID-19 Google Mobility data, which was done October 2022, puts Anne Arundel County, including Annapolis, at a 387% increase in park usership. So that tells you we are bursting at the seams. People are knocking down the doors to get into their parks, to utilize our facilities, and we think that trend will continue to this upcoming summer season. The pool costs $4 million, with about $618,000 from Program Open Space, which is a state grant that the city applied for and received funding for. Program Open Space stipulates the project shall be open for public use at all reasonable hours and times of the year according to the type of area and facility. The pool is open from 6 a.m. to 7:45 p.m. Monday through Friday, and our peak public times are the evening times, which start between 4 and 5, and it goes until we close at 7:45 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. to 7:45 p.m. are the pool operating hours. The pool has 3 sections. There's the rec pool, which is a 0 to 4 foot capacity. I'm sorry, a 0 to 4 foot pool, and the capacity is 125 participants in that area. And it's important to note that in order to slide down the slide into the 4 foot depth pool, you have to be able to be swim tested and pass a swim test, and that occurs in the lap swim lane. The other section of the pool is a 6-lane lap swim pool, and that capacity is 240. And we'd like to keep, well, I'll talk about that in a second. The splash pad has a capacity of 90. Why is this capacity important? Because we have to maintain these numbers for safe swimming, safe water safety activities, which means that Ms. Rafiq has to look at her lifeguard to swimmer ratio at all times and make sure that we have a safe situation when we are at full capacity, which is traditionally in the evening times. Also, the 3 sections, when we have anyone come in, whether they swim or not, they go towards that capacity. So let's say the swim team comes in, and parents, obviously, if I were a parent, I would want to be able to watch my child swim, make sure they're safe, help put on the goggles, and all those sorts of things. So I would want to come in the pool as well. So for every parent that comes in, that's one less swimmer we can have in the pool. Weekday morning, early afternoon programming, we have lap swimming, water aerobics, public swim lessons, and then we have summer camps. Weekday evening programming, which is peak times, the swim team traditionally has had 5 lanes, and 1 lap swim lane was open to the public. And so in other words, the slide would have to close with only 1 lane open. It's important to note that we traditionally haven't done programming in the evening times. And we wanted to survey the community to find out what they wanted. A survey had not been done for the swimming pool, so we sent out a survey. And the survey was only on programming that they wanted to see the Recreation and Parks Department deliver this summer. And we are fortunate that we had 270 people respond to the survey. And we asked them what days of the week would they like programs offered. And the highest numbers were, incidentally, Wednesday and Thursday, with 148 responding. Wednesday and Thursday were their times that they wanted to see programs offered. And a close, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And a close second was Monday with 142 people responding. Then we said, what time of day would you like the programs offered? Early to mid-morning, mid to late morning, early to mid-afternoon to evening, evening, or no preference. And a resounding 121 responses voted for the evening times. That was the time where they would like to see us program. And then we said, well, what programs would you like to see the department deliver? And the choices were adult swim lessons, youth swim lessons, toddler swim lessons, infant swim lessons, senior water aerobics, dance fitness, and water classes, aqua spin classes, water walking, water safety classes, scuba diving certification, or are you unsure at this time? The highest percentage of responses came from those people who wanted to see youth swim lessons. That was 101 people who responded to our survey. And then a close second was dance, fitness, water aerobics, with 69 people responding. That's what they would like to see programmed at their pool. So weekday evening programming, those were the choices, but we also have the survey in as well. So again, we want to support the Penguins. That was our stance from the beginning. So what does support look like? When we first met with the Penguins, they asked for 5 swim lanes, 5 p.m. to 7:45 p.m., Monday through Thursday. And we said, okay, well, we can offer you 6 lanes in the morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's essentially the entire pool, and that's our non-peak time. So we figured that wouldn't impact our residents who our residents in their usage patterns. Then we said, well, let's do a hybrid version. We can offer you 3 swim lanes, 5 to 7:45 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or 6 lanes in the morning and 3 lanes in the in the evening. Again, still reserving half of the pool for the public and half of the pool for the swim team, which we thought was a fair option, and that would still allow us to run classes in the evening, which, as you see as you heard by the survey, that's what the public is asking for. Then we said, well, what about the housing pool? That pool is underutilized traditionally, and we could talk to housing and see if you would be able to have access to that for the swim team. We thought that would also capture the audience that the swim team has shared. They're interested in capturing the youth who don't have access to swim lessons, and the youth who also don't traditionally have access to swim team participation. So we thought that was a win-win. And the Penguins shared with us that they did not want to take the time away from the HACA residents for that option. And then we said, well, what about 4 swim lanes from 5 to 7:45 p.m. Monday through Thursday? That would allow us to keep all 3 sections of the pool open to the public, but it would limit us and we would not be able to provide classes during the peak times. But we said that that's another option that we're willing to go with in an effort to compromise. And during those conversations, it came up where the Penguins' initial, their changed request was, what about 4 lanes from 5 to 6, close the pool to the public at 6 p.m., and then open the pool, all 6 lanes, to the Penguins from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And we said, well, that would cause an unsafe environment, one, for our staff, and the public really would not understand why this swim team gets to swim and they don't get to swim, and it's still daylight hours, it's still our peak times. And so their final request was for 5 swim lanes from 5 to 7:45 p.m. Monday through Thursday. One important note, too, is that the registration numbers would impact the number of swim lanes that are needed. We have had been asking for the registration, so we were happy to hear tonight that the registration is at 112. I think their target number was 140. So depending on the age groups, that will determine how many lanes are needed. But there are swim teams within the city of Annapolis and within Anne Arundel County that operate and train on 4-lane pools. So it is a possibility, and it can be done. And I just had some pictures here so that people who hadn't visited the pool in recent years would be able to see the 3 sections. The slide pool is on the left, the 6-lane lap swim pool is in the middle, and then the splash pad is on the right underneath of the shade structure. And that is our presentation.
Thank you.
Wait,
any questions? Alderman Charles, and then I'll come back to you, Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question, Director Johnson. Your surveys went out. How did you determine who got the survey?
So we put the survey on the website. We placed it on our website. We placed it on the city's website. And I don't know the other ways. I'd have to talk to our public affairs person, but it was on our website, on our Facebook page, I believe on our Instagram page as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Alderman Neal, then Alderman Gay.
Mr. Mayor, I still have the floor. Thank you.
No, we moved.
I raised a question, and the question.
I'm going to come back to you, Alderman Gay, please. Alderman Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions. In regards to the survey, was it a drop-down list of activities that, in the one question on which activities you would like?
There were bubbles that people could fill in, and then there were questions that are open-ended where people could write in their comments.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And my last question is really quickly, when you talk about the capacities, the 125, the 240, the 90, so it's a total capacity of 455. So you're not exactly sure when somebody walks through the door whether they're planning on the lap pool, the splash pad, or the slide/diving board. Is that correct?
Correct. And I'll let Jennifer speak to that because she does have to do some policing, if you will, of the different areas and ask people to hop out, hold on for some time. But Jennifer can best speak to that.
So during COVID, we used bands. And so, for example, you would have 40 swimmers allowed to be in the rec pool and maybe 20 on the splash pad. So we had color-coded bands, so we were able to tell. As people enter into the facility, we would ask them what pool you would like to go to. So once the restrictions were lifted off, we were just going for the total number. So I try to keep the rec pool, which has the little kids in it, at 125. We go out, we'll do a head count, the front desk, we click everybody in. It's manageable to do it when you have somebody occupying the main pool. You can go around and you can count the other pool and then the 90 over here. So we do it, everything's done manually.
Okay.
And once we get to that capacity, then we have to let the residents know that it's one in, one out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, the city does not own Hacker's Pool, correct?
That's correct.
So how are you able to offer them recreational hours at a pool that the city doesn't own?
So we didn't offer recreational hours. We offered to talk to HACA to see if we could develop a partnership so that they would be able to use it. They were not open to that and didn't want that option, so we did not talk to HACA to see if they would be able to use it.
And that pool isn't a lap pool either, is it?
It's a 25-meter pool.
So I'm assuming it can be converted into the lap pool?
It can be used
Okay.
for swim team, correct?
Awesome. But the city, again, doesn't own that. So what other plans were, or proposals were made to try to make this work? I think you got back, the last one you said was the 4 swim lanes from 5 to 7:45 p.m.
Yes, sir.
And they didn't approve of that?
No.
They wanted the 5 swim lanes from 5 to 7:45 p.m.?
Yes.
And that's what they traditionally have had at the old pool, correct?
That's correct.
And if you go to the other image, the last image, so if they have the 5 lanes, there's still this entire pool on the right side, correct?
So that's a splash pad. It's a little bit confusing to look at, but that's a splash pad with 0 depth.
A splash pad, so people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The general.
No, on the right, that's the 0 to 4 foot pool.
Okay, yeah. So there's still an entire pool. So the general public still would have access to some pool, correct?
So the 0 to 4 foot pool is more of a 12 and under pool for youth. Adults traditionally don't utilize that portion of the pool unless they have children with them. There's a lot of splashing that goes around, a lot of children playing. There's a water feature that has buckets dumping out and all sorts of
So it's
things.
starting to boil down to less of an issue for children and more of an issue for adults that wouldn't have access to the lap pools if we expanded it to 5.
So adults and teenagers as well. It's somewhat of a challenge, and I'll let Jennifer speak to that, Ms. Rafiq.
So in the recreation pool, which is the 0 depth beach entry to the 4 foot catch, when we close off the lap pool to the teenagers and the adults, the teenagers often hop into the recreation pool and make it unsafe for the toddlers that cannot swim by dunking, splashing, horseplaying. Then you have to reprimand them, and then they start to get nasty with you, call you all kinds of names, get in your face, and then they want to know why these people can swim in this pool, but the lap pool, but I can't. So it becomes very confrontational for us.
Okay. So what is this? I'm confused on what's the solution we're voting on tonight. Is it either give them the 5 lanes or give them nothing?
We're voting on the resolution, but Alderman Savage had a presentation. Right.
I'm just, so, first of all, just a couple corrections. For the swim team, they have quote-unquote tryouts, but it's just to make sure people can swim, so they have to do a lap or 2 to be able to qualify. But if they can't qualify, they then get sent into the swim pipeline program. And the swim pipeline program, which is a program of the Penguins, but also of the Rec Advisory Board, helps to get them swim lessons, be it at this pool or at the Reaver pool. And they've already made arrangements with the county to help provide for supplemental lessons at the Reba Pool, my understanding. And and they also don't have a specific stroke requirement. It's just, when I first started swimming, I could only do one stroke, and they just want to make sure they can do a lap or two to make sure that it's going to be safe for them. And if they want to pursue the team, they get them into those lessons. As far as peak times, I don't know if Julian got my one slide, but if you look at the programs from the actual, because I know I was told before that the estimate they're using for peak times is not based on, we don't have actual data for our pool, right, for peak times.
We do. We have anecdotal data where we have one in, one out, and that is during the traditional peak times.
What are the traditional peak times?
Between 4 and 5 until closed.
It's anecdotal data. That's not, so my point is, even looking at the city's own programs from previous years, it states in there, and I don't know if Julian has this to bring up or not, but it says right in there, it goes over pool schedule and hours, and it says, please note, while summer camps are in session, the campers enjoy the pool Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 p.m., so it can be very busy at that time. And I know we often talk about Annapolis being different. That is our peak time. I have been to the old pool, the new pool, and that was largely the issue. If you show up in the afternoon during the week, it's going to be packed, crowded because of camps. We don't have the data to even prove that our peak time, we've heard repeatedly the peak times in the evening, but that's just, we don't have the data. That's not an accurate assessment. Based on what we've already seen from previous programs, peak time for our pool is in the afternoon, not in the evening when the Penguins are trying to practice. And so I also want to mention that the pool has been open later before. The pool has been open as for the team, and also, well, it's been open to the public as late as 8, open for the team as late as 8:30 in the past. So that is something that has been done before. One question I do have is, when do you need to finalize the pool programming every year for the summer months?
When do I finalize it?
When do you
is it gonna
finalize
go?
your own programming? Like what you
Well,
want
I
to do?
have to revolve it. I've been revolving it around the swim team since I took this job, which is not fair to the patrons.
Well, when do you typically?
When would I like to have it out? I'd like to have it out in February.
Okay.
The county has theirs out, but mine still is not out.
So this is something that
Well, that's the
we've
slide.
discussed briefly as a department, because traditionally, as Ms. Rafiq said, most Parks and Recreation departments have their information out to the public in February. That's when you start summer camp registration, and that's really when parents are looking to determine what their children are going to do during the summer.
Yeah.
This year, we've kind of missed that window, and I think traditionally, February has not been our date. But we would like for our program guides to go out 2 weeks prior to when our summer camp registration would start, so that the public would know what programs the city is offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, my point with that is I want to offer a little bit of history as well that wasn't mentioned. So the team's operated on this new pool for the past 2 summers. And last year is the first year that we started to have problems. That's when I first got wind of some of the concerns about the Penguins having practice there. But the decision was made, because you remember there was a budget amendment having to do with the pool, having to do with the team. I mean, to help just to get them through that summer. The idea was, with the former director, that we would get them through this summer, that last summer, and that the team would sit down with Rec and Parks and work out a solution. And that is what happened, right? They met, according to the Rec Advisory Board in the newspaper, in October, started chatting in October to draft an agreement. That's what we intended. That was the whole idea, was to get them through the summer and craft a new plan. And so, but come February, and there was a draft agreement for 5 lanes, what they've always had, 5 lanes. And it also laid out the expectations for each party. It laid out the registration goals. And then it was put on hold all of a sudden, and the team was told, was be assured by the mayor's office that everything was going to be okay, no need to worry, it's going to be okay, we just need to get the law office to review. And then next thing they know, in March, the rug was pulled out from under them. The deal was taken off the table, the 5 lanes. So that's the frustration, that's the bind we're in right now. Rec and Parks admitted that ideally they should finalize the programs in February, which I agree with. The swim team should have been finalized in February like originally the plan was, but it was put on hold. This is an awful situation for everybody. It's an awful situation for the team, it's an awful situation for Rec and Parks. Because we're trying to do things with, 4 weeks left until the summer, till the pool opens? This is not how we should be running any kind of programs. And that's why I've been pushing, that's why the legislation is pushing the idea of just let's go with the 5 lanes. You've done this the past 2 years, 5 lanes, right?
Under pressure,
what's preventing,
under pressure, pushed around and bullied.
Well, what's preventing the Rec and Parks from being able to do 5 lanes again this summer so we can actually, because a lot of these solutions, which I as far as practicing mornings, splitting the practices, doing them different days, that's all well and good, but again, we need time to discuss. We can't do that with 4 weeks left until the pool opens. If people have talked about wanting to cap membership, and that's again, for city county residents, that's fine, but we need time to work that out. We don't have time to do that this season. And that's why the legislation is pushing for the 5 lanes. We know we can do it. We've done it in the past. Is there anything that's preventing Rec and Parks from being able to do 5 lanes again this summer?
So a couple of things. So we have increased pool usage because the pool is new, because people are learning about it, because we no longer have COVID restrictions on the pool. We've seen a gradual increase in pool usership. So that increase, we think, based on the numbers, based on the data, as I mentioned, Anne Arundel County had the largest park usership increase in the state, and that was just from October 2022. So we anticipate that there will be more users wanting to utilize the pool. Word has gotten out. It is an amazing facility. It is the equivalent, in my estimations, of a country club pool. Who wouldn't want to use this amazing amenity? So that poses a challenge for my staff, for the department staff. Last year, it was very difficult to be able to manage this team coming in, that team coming out, or this age group coming in, that team coming out, people coming up and wanting to be able to utilize the pool, the lap swim pool being closed, teenagers outside of the gate who can't get in, parents who are coming, they're getting off of work with their children, they want to come in, they want to be able to swim, children who are walking up to the pool because now their parents are home, they want to get in and they can't get in. It is a capacity challenge for us. Additionally, at 5 lanes, we are going to have to close either the adult lap swim or we're going to have to close the slide down, which limits the ability to be able to use all of the amenities in the pool. And I do want to point out one more thing. We screenshot the Truxton Park Penguins page, and it does say that swimmers, for 9 to 12-year-old swimmers, must swim freestyle for 2 lengths of the pool, which is 50 yards without stopping, and the swimmer has to show their ability to swim backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly. So perhaps they don't. Maybe that was an accident that they posted that, but there are swim strokes that youth would have to be able to attempt to do.
Well, so as far as the increased pool usage, I mean, you said it yourself, that's anticipated. We don't have the data. And frankly, because I spoke to the last pool manager, and one of the things I do want to look at in this budget is raising the fee for non-county residents. Because the perception from
You mean non-city residents?
Non-city and non-county. Because the perception from the last pool manager was that some of the hostility came from people who don't live in the city and don't live in the county. Because they said people were actually coming from outside this area because it is the cheapest pool in the entire region for membership, the cheapest public pool. And so I think we might want to look at that. If numbers are a problem, let's prioritize city residents, let's prioritize county residents, and look to raise the fee on. I mean, the county does it for Quiet Waters Park. You know, you can get cheaper fees, cheaper rates if you're a county resident. So I think we need to look at that. I don't understand the argument about needing to close other pools because for the past 2 years you haven't had to do that, and the Penguins have had 5 lanes.
The past 2 years, if you're talking about 2021, we had COVID restrictions that limited the pool usage. We did not have the same capacity numbers, and people were still hesitant to come out and actually participate in public events and functions. And so last year was the first full year that we actually had a full-fledged season, and we were gangbusters. As Ms. Rafiq testified, it was one in and one out on numerous nights. I would say the vast majority of the nights during the evening, they had to close the pool, and there were lines outside of the pool waiting for people to come out so that they would be able to pay and go in.
So I guess what comes down to, I understand their difficulties, and as I've said to you, I'm sure the council's happy to work with you on addressing if there are concerns about people getting hostile. Again, I'm saying this as a public servant in both my jobs, you get around that by setting expectations and messaging. So if we need to improve signage, get the messaging out there that the pool is going to be limited during certain hours, because that's, again, I could throw it up there if I was quick tonight, but in the past it was clearly laid out in the brochure that the pool's restricted during certain hours to the general public, just like it is every year. In the morning it's restricted because it's used for specific programs, be it master swimming, be it water aerobics, be it the water walking, or lap swimming, but it even says it doesn't open up to the general public for general lap swim until 11 a.m. But the question comes down to, I understand you have concerns, and I'm happy to work with you on your concerns, but is it feasible to have 5 lanes? Can you do it? Because this is a make or break situation for the Penguins. I don't think it's a make or break situation for Rec and Parks, because I think you can do 5 lanes. But again, it's a make or break situation for the Penguins because restricting to 4 lanes based on the registration that was set by Rec and Parks in the agreed upon February contract, using those numbers, that would be around 12 kids per lane. 12 kids per lane. So if you think of the average height of a kid, it's with their arms extended, it's probably around 7 feet. You can't fit 12 kids in a lane. They would overlap themselves. You can't do circle swimming. You can't have a safe practice. So again, it gets back to my point. If you want to do 4 lanes, that has to be a whole other conversation about capping registration. How can we do this safely? That can't happen with 4 weeks left. So the question is, can you do 5 lanes this summer like you did the past year?
So a couple of things. So with the 4 lanes, we don't have the registration numbers. The Penguins have not completed their registration. They traditionally have 140. Right now they have 112. So that would be less need on the lanes. We would have to see the age groups for those, for the registrations as well. They may have more 6 and under, or more 8 and unders, or more 12 to 16s. We'd have to see those numbers to determine how many per lane. We have not been privy to that. We've been asking for it. And we could do 5 lanes. We could do 6 lanes. We could close the pool down and open it just to the swim team. But if you're asking me as a Recreation and Parks Director who has to look at equity, who has to look at fairness, that would not be my recommendation. That would not be my professional recommendation. And it's not keeping the amenity open to the public during reasonable times. So we'd have to get through that hurdle as well based on our funding.
Well, and then I'll try to end with this, Mr. Mayor, but capping membership is a conversation that should be had with the community with adequate time, not with 4 weeks left. And it should be had with the community, it should be had with the Penguins, it should be had with the Rec Advisory Board, right? Even with the council, I'll throw that out there too, because I think some of us want to make sure, maybe we don't want to reduce swim team registration to a certain level because that makes it less accessible to people. We can potentially have less kids being able to participate. So that's a larger conversation I think we should be having. I don't understand why it's trying to be forced through. You talk about fairness. How is it fair and any kind of standard that we should be using to negotiate with a public community organization for what would be October, November, December, January, February, for 5 months, negotiate for 5 months to get an agreement and then pull it out from under them when they're at the 11th hour? How is that fair at all? It's not. That's what has caused people to come to the council, that frustration. And that is the frustration that I keep getting the sense that this is tone deaf from the city manager, tone deaf from the administration.
May I speak?
It's just so frustrating to be hearing this.
Alderman Savage, please. Mr. City Manager.
You know, part of the issue and I've tried to exercise patience and restraint through this process because I have to be fair to all sides. But it seems like throughout this discussion, it's been either you do what I say or you are what he just said. And that's how the staff has felt. And frankly, it's intimidating. It's intimidating to people to make professional judgments and to feel like their jobs and their livelihoods are safe and respected. The staff is hired to make these decisions. I did not know about a February discussion, did I?
I emailed that to you a
When?
while ago. I can look it up. I emailed it to you and Jack.
Last week.
No, I
Not
sent
in
it to you
February,
before
not in March. Last week. I'm sorry, but I did not know, nor was I a part of any of that. I felt very strongly that the professional staff should be given the opportunity to decide how to run the pool according to their best judgment. I think I also mentioned in our discussions that the registration has expanded, and that's created some use restrictions as well. I respect that you have a strongly held opinion, and I don't feel like I need to put you down for that. And I would hope that you would feel the same about me and our staff when we're making our decisions too, because we're only doing it for our welfare of the city, not for any personal reasons. And that's what I would ask you.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to some other councillors. Can I, Alderman Savage, please? Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm a competitive floater, not a competitive swimmer. So I don't know much about all of this, and it really has blown up out of the blue for me. I am also intimidated, Mr. City Manager, because I have a lot of very concerned constituents, and we're getting inundated with emails. So I feel the need to get some information. And the very first question I have is, this has been going on for 19 years. Other pools in the county have competitive swimming. My sister swims at Reba, and they do close the pool when the competitive people are there, the whole pool. She can't swim there when they're doing it. So this is not without precedent. So it feels to me, and this is understandable, we have a new pool, a new administration, a new evaluation. I didn't know about the survey. I did surveys as a professional. I know you can ask survey questions to get the answers that you want, or you can ask surveys and get surprise answers that you didn't anticipate. So it'd be interesting to know more about the survey. I didn't hear you say on the survey, do you want competitive swimming? Was that one of the questions?
It was not, because we don't offer competitive swimming. This was department-led programming, not a partnership with another organization coming in to utilize the pool. So it wasn't a survey on pool usage, but pool programming.
Okay, but it has been a program for 19 years, and for a number of those years, my understanding again, and I'm putting this out to be educated, is that in fact the Department of Parks and Recs had a very active role, I think until 2012 or something like that, and had been very active. I can't tell you what the facts are or whatever, but what appears to me is happening is we're making a change in policy. And we're making a change in policy of the usage of the pool. And it further appears to me that we're making it fairly quickly and very late in the game for some of the people who have been participants for a long period of time. So one of the questions I'll ask at the end is, does this change in policy have to happen right now? Is this a change in policy that can develop and be more fully implemented when everybody has the new set of priorities and objectives, and we allow a competitive season to go on for this year? Now, I'm looking at the resolution, and it doesn't seem like anybody is complaining about the first, be it resolved, that the city expresses support for the Penguins. You yourself have expressed that. And it acknowledges the equitable swim at the pool. And it only is when we get to this last one, which is the slide you had up, the request and the offer and the further request. To me, this is a fundamental change in the policy direction of the pool. And I use that word policy expressly because this is more than rules and regulations. This is a change in the use of the pool, in the priorities for the use of the pool. Some of the things I heard about the new uses, I like the sounds of, more programming for seniors, more programming for people that want to dance and walk in the pool, but it is a policy change. And that's where I think it falls to the council. We had a discussion in the closed session with the city attorney, and it is very clear in the city charter that policy is made by the elected officials and is carried out by the staff. Clearly, in the practice in the past has always been the elected officials, who are not the subject matter experts, look to the staff for guidance. But when it comes to a fundamental policy change, it comes to a pool that has competitive swim lanes, but we're really dramatically restricting them. That's where I feel it comes to us. And that's where this last clause is going to be the sticky wicket, because it says have 2.5 hours Monday through Thursday with 5 lanes. And I think I'm construing from you, Madam Director, that's not what you want, that's not what you advise. And that is, I think, unless I'm wrong, a change in what we've been doing for 19 years. And I guess my question is, do we have to go to the new emphasis for the pool in this short time period, or is this something that we can get through this year with the status quo and then start to implement these changes as we go on? I heard and perked up on the fact that we don't have lights, and certainly that's something Alderwoman Finlayson and I have been talking about and wanted for this pool. And I'm wondering if when we think about budget and we think about lights, if that also isn't something that would allow additional pool hours with lights. And is that something that we could be considering with the budget? And by the way, we'd have to increase the amount of staff dollars that you have, because that's extending the hours of the pool, if I'm perceiving it correctly. But I guess my big bottom line question is, with this short period of time, is this something we have to do right now? Or is this something that we can go another year and then start implementing these changes, and possibly with enhancements to the pool?
So first, I'll say that it's not really a policy change, it's an operational change, because there is no policy that says the Penguins get 5 swim lanes, and there's no policy that says they get 6 or 4, anything along those lines. We're tasked as a department with making operational decisions, and so there are a couple of things. One, through National Recreation and Parks Association, there are 3 pillars: equity, conservation, and health and wellness. And certainly equity is at the forefront of what we do as a profession to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and that we're fair and equitable across the board. So we don't favor a swim team over the general public having access to the pool. They're equally important to us. Additionally, we operate under a pool operator's license. And in order to operate a pool in the state, you have to have a pool operator's license. Your staff needs to have that. So for us, Jennifer Rafiq has the pool operator's license. She just actually took a test to be recertified so that she could operate the pool. And she did miss one question, and she knows exactly what she's going to kill me for saying that. But that just tells you the quality of the staff that we have, where she knows what she's doing. So we operate under her license. So we have to follow those rules and regulations as well when it comes to safety of the pool.
So I guess we can quibble at a higher level. I assert that this is a policy change. If 4 other members of this council agree with me, it is a policy change. So I don't think we need to have a debate on that. The other part of the charter that empowers the council is the oversight of delivery of service. That is also a sticky wicket because it gets very close to separation of powers, but it is one of the powers that the council has. And so that's what's before us. That's what we're getting inundated with the emails is, what is the council going to do with this resolution, which is very expressly supporting the Penguins, but I think more broadly is supporting competitive swimming in this pool in Annapolis, just as all the other pools or many of the other pools in the county have. And so I guess my bottom line question and my appeal to my colleagues is this not something that we can forestall for this year and work on budget to make potentially more enhancements to the pool, expanding the hours of operations? And I think that is a question for my colleagues. Is that something that we would feel comfortable in doing as a policy decision? And we'll know when we have a vote on the resolution how many of us feel that is the mind of the council, the sense of the council, and for how many it's not.
Director Johnson, just for the public, you're going to close the pool on Saturday during the swim meets, right?
That's correct. The swim team has asked for two Saturday swim team meets. And so the pool will also be closed for hopefully an hour of the normal swim time. We've asked them to move their time up so that they will have an early start and they can finish early, and the pool will be closed 2 Saturdays for an hour at the beginning time.
Thank you. Alderman Tierney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to be quick. I know, I'm speaking as a mother, and I see some children still here, and it's past their bedtime, and I hope they did their homework and all that. Could you introduce your name and what your title is?
My name is Jennifer Rafiq.
And your title?
And I am the Community Fitness and Aquatic Supervisor.
Okay. And my point there is you handle operations of the pool?
Yes.
Okay. Let me back up. I'm really glad that you had the opportunity to talk about, that you agree with the audience as far as the merits of swimming and the commitment to the program and the viability and the safety. But at the same time, you're tasked by the city manager to take into account the interests of all of our city residents, and that's what you're charged with. I think this has led to a really good discussion, but I think the point that is missed here is that the resolution is not the vehicle to do this. As Alderman Arnett said, yeah, we could agree, the first, I think it was everything but the last paragraph. In the last paragraph, the reason why we can't agree with that is that it does go into the operations that you're tasked to manage and decide on. I supported the resolution on the first two two whereas clauses or whatever, therefore clauses where, yeah, we support the team. And I wish, we could rewrite it to say we support our swim team and we trust that our city directors will utilize their judgment to take into account the interest of others. I think that's where the resolution should have just stopped. This is not good. I mean, we cannot do operational decisions with a resolution. So in the interest of everyone going home, I think that I would ask the sponsor if he could remove or pull this resolution, and that we would commit to future discussions being had to come to some agreement here. I just think that that's why we're here, to vote on a resolution that I see is, you can look at it as almost too complete or incomplete. People got up and they were misinformed about the lanes, and I heard the words, we don't have the data, even, from the sponsor. So this resolution is flawed in that respect. So I urge the sponsor to pull it, and that we move forward with future discussions on how this is going to be worked out the most equitable way. And also out of respect to you and what you're charged in doing, which is to serve the residents of the city and in the most equitable way.
Thank you.
Alderman Pindell Charles and Alderman Gay and Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Johnson, I'm going to direct your attention and the public's attention to two clauses within this resolution. One, whereas it said the Penguins need at least 5 lanes for only 2.5 hours of the 13-hour day the pool is open for 29 days to have a viable team without crowded and dangerous swim lanes. I'm going to assume, you correct me if I'm wrong, that operationally, that cannot be effectuated with your decision making. Is that correct? You want me to read it again?
So it can be effectuated. I think at the point of the discussion is the time. We could effectuate it in the morning from 7 to 9:30 or 8 to 10:30. I'm sorry, I was adding up 2.5 hours. But at discussion, or the compromise piece is the peak times.
So this cannot be negotiated based on the conversations you've had with the Penguins so far. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's off the table as far as they are concerned, as you're concerned, pretty much. You'd have to change the times, you make them earlier. Is that correct?
Yes, we could accommodate at an earlier time. They could have the whole entire pool, all 6 lanes to themselves from 7 until 9 or 9:30 in the morning. That's what we offered. Or we could even do a hybrid where they have all lanes in the morning and then no more than 3 to 4 lanes in the evening, because then it would still give the public access during that peak high demand time.
Okay. Now, the other portion I'm going to read to you, it says, at least 5 lanes on average for at least 2.5 hours every Monday through Thursday during the 2-month summer swim season, including 2 to 3 Saturday home swim meets per the Greater Annapolis Swim League, to ensure we have a viable community swim team for 2023 and beyond. Is that not an option or operationally for the Rec and Parks Department? That's a lot.
It is.
It sounds like a lot.
It is a lot because it's the vast majority of the time that the pool is open. But again, I think with compromise, we could make the morning times work. We moved it earlier. And again, we have to staff this. We're fortunate that our aquatics manager has a great relationship and has really done her due diligence to talk to pediatricians, pretty much everyone in the city. She's shaking the trees to get lifeguards so that we have adequate staffing. There are people around the country who can't say that. So When I first came to the city, I was very impressed with the work that Ms. Rafiq has done and the relationships that she's built. So staffing is not necessarily a concern, where we can open an hour earlier in order to be able to accommodate them for their swim team meets. Her staff can quickly turn it around, and will need about an hour to kind of clear everything out, take the pool readings, put chemicals in the pool and all those other sorts of things, because it's not just like you hop in a car and go. You have to check the oil, you have to make sure the gas, the fuel tank is full, and all sorts of things. But her staff really does a great job doing that.
So that, in your estimation, we could eliminate, but we definitely could accommodate the previous whereases if the times were moved earlier.
Absolutely.
Now, there's one thing, and I'm not even going out on a limb on this one. I'm going to say this publicly. I do strongly believe, that there's an opportunity for Penguin leadership to use the Hacker pool. Now, I'm only going by some recent conversations. And I'm going to say that. Very recent conversations.
We concur with you as well. That was our impression upon speaking to the director of HACA, that she's been very open. And there's some things that our department could do in order to help facilitate that. We even looked into possibly purchasing the swim lane ropes so that the lanes would be there. So I think there is an opportunity, as you mentioned, a very high opportunity to partnership.
And I'm not just talking about HACA. I'm talking about the Penguins. Very recent conversation.
That would be great. That would be a win-win.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I would hope that the Parks and Rec Department would immediately abort any plans to, get the Truxton Parks Penguin team to use the Hacker pool. That's not a good idea. They pay $1 to use their neighborhood pool. $1 to use their neighborhood pool. If they come to your pool, they're paying more than $1. And so some of the kids can't go to Truxton Park and pay the $4 or $5 that you're asking them to pay. They can only pay the $1. And sometimes they can't even pay that. And so to say, we don't want them at our brand new pool, let's throw them over to Haka's community pool. That's a horrible idea. And I hope you would ask the other communities the same thing. If you ask Haka, can they go to the Haka pool? I hope you do the same to Bayshore Landing, Nautilus Point. There are so many other community pools that they could use. Do not use the pool of our most vulnerable citizens. Just because the Kenneth Dunn pool is not of convenience for you. I would beg of you to do that. My second question is, if they had been having discussions for the last 5 months and you weren't here to halt the discussions, the city manager didn't halt the discussions, under whose leadership were the discussions with the Truxton Park Penguins team halted?
I can't answer that question because I wasn't here, as you stated. But I did want to talk about the use of the Truxton Park pool, because I think there's an opportunity for us to work with HACA to get their residents to come over to the Truxton Park pool.
They do that often, and Archie Trader did a very good job of creating programming, and particularly for Ward 6 families to utilize the pool. So that, they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's something a relationship that's already established. And I'm pivoting away from the HACA thing because I thought it was that poor of a decision. But as it relates to the, with this pool, the Kenneth Dunn, I will support the resolution. It does not look like it'll pass tonight, which worries me. What will happen to the Penguin swim team, if they will still operate, if they will take you up on your offer for less lanes. I'm curious to see where that goes, and if you are reigniting the negotiations that stalled in February. Obviously, as he had mentioned, it's 4 weeks left. It's too really late to do anything. And I don't think they swim for only 6 weeks out of the summer, correct?
8.
8 weeks, okay. So I just would hope that you could give them just opportunity to just swim this last season. And if you don't like it at the end of this, then we scrap it. But I think when they have 110 people already registered and we're 4 weeks away from them starting, it would just be a poor rep for us on the council. It would be a poor rep for the Parks and Rec Department. And I'm not sure if that's, the reputation we want to have as shutting down the competitive swim team. And so I'll be voting for the resolution.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call forward the swim team leadership so we can hear from them as far as get a better understanding of exactly what they're...
Alderman Savage, there was public comments have already been, so they cannot come forward.
Why?
Because
but they're the ones who can actually talk to the logistical issues that this would present as far as 4 lanes.
I'm not going to allow that, Alderman Savage. We had public comment, and many people have come up and spoken a second time. They were here 2 weeks ago. So everybody has had...
I move to challenge the decision of the chair.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
Second.
It's out of order.
How's that out of order?
Because it was a public comment period.
I'm not asking for public comment. I'm asking for one of the stakeholders to come and talk about how a decision we're going to make is going to impact their operations so we can actually make an informed decision. We're only hearing from one side. I know we heard public comment, but that's 3 minutes. How long has the director had to speak? The public said 3 minutes each. We haven't even heard from the leadership team as far as what impact exactly, so we can understand impact only 4 lanes would have on them, right? What are those challenges? I'd like to find out from them as far as the negotiation timeline, as far as how it impacted them to have the city withdraw after 5 months of negotiating on this. What difficulties that presents to them as a community team?
It's not public involvement at this time. And Alderman Savage, you have stated many of those things all along, so it's not like we haven't heard them. So we're going to repeat the same things that you've been stating, right?
Well, we have the city attorney cannot overrule a motion on the floor that is for challenging the motion of the chair, or challenging the decision of the chair.
I was just giving advice to the mayor.
That motion's been seconded.
Sorry, what's the motion on the floor?
What is your motion?
It's...
We need to call the question.
Just call the question, for goodness sake. Right?
There's a motion on the floor to overrule a decision of the chair that's allowed per city code.
There is a motion and a second for what, Alderman Savage?
To overrule the decision of the chair.
To overrule the decision of the chair.
But you have a motion for the resolution.
Okay.
To pass the resolution.
Well, it says if it's a secondary motion.
So there is a motion and a second.
To pass the resolution on the floor.
Which is on the floor. That does not.
This is a secondary motion to challenge the decision of a chair can be made at any time when you make a decision as chair. That is a sub-action.
Well, I don't agree with that, Alderman Savage.
Well, it's not up to you.
Okay, it is.
It's up to the body since the motion was made and seconded. We have the authority per city code to challenge your decision.
Okay, I'm going to we're open for questions now.
I have not yielded the floor either.
What are you going to do? Keep talking?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead.
I think he just recognized me, so it's my turn.
No, I've not given up the floor. I asked to get a representative because I had further questions.
I will call the question. Am I out of order?
You can't. There's a motion on the floor.
Well, if you're not going to...
And you can't interrupt somebody who has the floor.
So
you can't. I've got the floor.
Okay.
So let me just... No, I've got the floor.
Okay.
So we need to talk about this more because a colleague from Ward 1 has talked about getting into operations. I seem to remember a certain resolution having to do with the short-term rental moratorium, which you introduced a while back, which deals with operations of the city as far as what kind of permits we even have to review. That is not a good standard to use. We also just discussed legislation of mine dealing with sediment control operations as far as inspection procedures. That's operations. That is something that is in our code per state requirement to have these laid out as far as operations. We're certainly within our bounds to be talking about operations as it relates to policy minimums. And we talked about this with the whole peace ordinance a while back as far as setting policy minimums in the code. That is within our realm. And I think my colleague from Ward 1 should also know that in your background as a builder that the need to negotiate in good faith. How is it in any way appropriate to spend 5 months negotiating with a community team and then back out of a deal that was reached, putting us into this mess to begin with? How is that something which you think is acceptable at all for us or for a contractor?
That's not stated in the resolution.
It's a rhetorical question. So I think
There's a motion that's on the floor.
we need to know, I think we need to state that as far as the Hackett Pool, I also want to mention that is really just a non-starter. As I've mentioned in the resolution, our capital improvement plan was approved with this being a competitive 6-lane pool. If you're talking about moving the kids elsewhere, that is essentially giving up that entire use of the pool as a competitive facility. That is something that we've already voted on as established policy, and to just sending them elsewhere is just, that is a complete departure of something the council has already voted on. I think I just want to emphasize that this really comes down to, again, a make it or break it situation for the Penguins. If this resolution does not pass, they're going to be restricted to 4 lanes. And as we've said, they would have to cap registration, which is fine, but how can anybody reasonably expect them to do that when they have they have an event coming up for swimsuit giveaways, they have tryouts in 2-3 weeks, then the pool opens at 4. How can we expect them to do that at this stage in the game? It's just not a sound decision to make, and I don't see why we would be putting that burden on the team when we know for a fact that Rec and Parks can operate with 5 lanes. We've heard they have concerns, but they can do it. Bottom line, they can do it. This is not an extreme ask. This is just asking for a continuance of something that we've done for the past 15 years.
Point of information. I think Robert's rules will say that when one calls the question, it ends all debate.
It has to be seconded. And you also
Did I get a second?
You can't interrupt somebody who actually has the floor either.
I'm sorry, I was
You did not have
asking.
the floor. You called the question. Can we get a second?
Well, you never actually recognized
There was a
anybody.
Point of order.
So that ends debate.
Thank you. You got a second for that?
Point of order.
What are we going to achieve? Let's just get the vote done, Alderman Savage and Alderman Jay.
I agree, but I'm trying to just make sure that we're, everybody's scrambling to pick up their Robert's Rules of Order, and I'm just making sure that it's in the correct. So if the city attorney or the city clerk could explain, that'd be great. There was a motion on the floor for debate. He raised a question. You shot down his question. He challenged your ruling. So that means that we're right now we're still in the process of challenging the ruling of the chair, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. No, the code says an appeal may be made from any decision of the chair. When the question is taken on sustaining the decision of the chair, if there is a majority in the affirmative or if the vote is a tie, the decision of the chair shall be sustained. If there is a majority in the negative, the decision of the chair should be reversed. That is City Code 2.16.110.
So my question is that should you be looking to take a vote on the rule? Okay.
I'm not recognizing the question. So
You can't overrule an appeal of the decision of the chair. That can be made at any decision of the chair. You made a decision, and that's what I'm trying to appeal.
Read your Robert's Rules. If you call
I'm
the
reading
question,
the city code.
it ends all debate.
No, it doesn't. You actually have to have the motion seconded
As it
and
was.
voted upon 2/3 majority for
And
calling the
if
question.
you give him a chance.
And it says specifically in Robert's rules, you can't interrupt somebody who has the floor with a call to the question.
Sorry, you're the attorney now.
You, Alderman
No,
Savage,
but I've been doing rules and
you yielded the
Robert's
floor, you stopped talking, I recognized Alderman Finlayson.
You actually
We are
never
calling the
recognized
question
her,
and we're going
I've
to take a
got-
vote
I've got a
now.
motion on the floor that was seconded.
I'm not
It's a
recognizing
decision
that.
of the chair.
I am not recognizing that.
That's in City Code.
I'm not
for
recognizing you.
216.110. You
I'm
already
not recognizing
have.
you, Alderman
Mr.
Savage.
Mayor, this is let's just do a simple vote on this. It's a motion in the city code allowed to us.
We are calling the
Any
question.
decision of yours can be challenged.
I am not doing that. I'm going to call the
Mr.
question
Mayor,
and get this put to
This is in
bed.
the city code.
I'm not doing that, Alderman
It's in the
Savage.
city code and it was
Okay, well,
seconded.
you can appeal it, whatever you need to do. I'm calling the question here.
It's
The
in
question
the
has been
city
called.
code.
We're going to take a vote. Can I
All we
please
need is a
get
simple vote
a roll
on
call?
appealing a decision of the chair.
No, Alderman
We
Savage.
need a vote on this.
No,
It's allowed
Alderman
in
Savage.
the code per our powers in the
Alderman
charter.
Savage, no.
It's allowed in the city code, Mr.
No,
Mayor.
Alderman, we are
Motion was
sick and
seconded.
tired of your bullying. No.
It's not bullying. This is in
It's-
city
it's
code. This
what
is
you
not
do.
bullying, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Second.
You can't make a point of order either. We're in the middle of a vote.
You can't second a point of order.
I'm going to listen to the city attorney. Alderman Savage, you are not the city attorney, even though you want to be.
Can I make a comment?
I really don't.
Yes.
My comment is this: we are fighting and arguing over a resolution, and if I read this resolution exactly as it is written here, it says we support the dedication of at least 5 lanes on average for at least 2.5 hours every Monday through Thursday during the 2-month summer swim season, including 2 to 3 Saturday home swim meets per Greater Annapolis Swim League. It does not say 5 to 7:45. So if we are supporting this resolution, we still maintain that the director has the right to negotiate with the swim team to honor this resolution in the hours that are going to be best for the community at large. I just want to make that clear, is the way I read it.
The director understands the will.
Let's just vote. Thank you. We've called the question.
Mr. Mayor, I still have a motion that is seconded.
I'm not recognizing Alderman
It doesn't
Savage.
matter. This motion was
Okay.
seconded. I'll sit here all damn night. This is a motion that was made. Just have the vote and be
First
done
of
with
all-
it. Just have the vote and be done with it, Mr. Mayor. It
No.
was seconded.
First of all,
I made this per city code. Just have the vote and be done with it.
you were wrong. So
I'm reading city code. I
Okay.
can make a motion on any
We are
decision.
clarified. We've
any
called the
decision of the
question.
chair.
you,
Any decision of the chair, Mr. Mayor. All it needs is a vote. We can be done with it.
I'm
You're
gonna
probably
call-
going to win it. Just
I'm
have it.
calling the question, Alderman Savage. and so
There's a
that-
motion on the floor. The
That
city
is the
attorney
vote.
often tells us you
That is
cannot-
the vote.
Mr. Mayor, this is not
No,
how you should
that
be
is
running the
the
meeting.
vote.
You're
Yeah.
ignoring the city code.
No, I'm
as
not.
written.
No, I'm not.
I've just
I'm
read the
listening to
damn
the
thing.
city
I just
attorney.
read it
I'm
to
not
you.
listening to you,
I
Alderman
just read
Savage.
it to you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you are wrong.
I'm allowed to make a motion that
Can I
is
get a roll
seconded.
call, please?
On the call to question.
What are we?
Calling the question.
Mr. Mayor.
What do we call it? Voting.
Call the question. What's the second? Okay. Mayor Buckley.
No. Calling the question.
Point of information. It's on the resolution.
The que- This is
Okay.
on the resolution. If we support
keep
the
going.
resolution or
Okay.
not support the resolution. Oh, You were seconded
Yes.
by Alderman Tyranny. We know what the numbers are. It doesn't make any difference if you want to
So
grandstand.
why don't you just have the darn vote
Okay.
that's allowed in the city code to the
Alderman-
alderpersons?
Okay, I'm sorry. Alderman Gay.
I don't know what I'm voting on.
You're voting on the resolution on second reader.
Whether you support the resolution or not, Alderman Gay.
Did the question get called?
There was no call to question.
It was called, the question was called over
It
here.
has to be seconded, and look at Robert's
was
rules. It's a
seconded.
two-thirds vote to call the question.
It was seconded. And
The motion, my motion was to call the question. And I think I had a second. Ms. Eldridge has her hand up.
when she called the question and she received a second, that motion does need a majority vote. And then we can vote, if it passes, then we can vote on the resolution on second reader. Yes,
So that's not going to get a majority vote. Let's just get it out of the way then, yeah?
the majority of the council is 5. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Hold on.
So, want me to finish the roll call?
So I'm a yes.
You are to call the
Sorry,
question.
Yes. He just clarified the question, okay? So the mayor said yes. Alderman Gay.
To call the question. You're a no.
No. So I'm so. We had 9 motions on the table.
Alderman Savage.
No.
Okay. Alderman Arnett.
No.
Alderman Tierney. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Yes.
Alderman Finlayson.
Yes.
Okay. We have 5 votes, yes. So we called the question. The next vote is on the resolution on second reader.
Do we need a motion for that, or is that already on the floor?
We are, actually Alderman Savage moved it on second reader.
Thank you for moving that, Alderman Savage.
And it has a second. So
we're gonna do a
we're ready
roll
for
call.
roll call on the resolution. Okay? Mayor Buckley.
No.
Alderman Gay.
Yes.
Alderman Arnett.
Yes.
That's it. I'm sorry, Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Tierney.
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson.
No.
The resolution passes. Three, four, five.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you guys.
Count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
That's all right. You can run the city if you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
And maybe it's to the city manager. Because we have now overridden the staff position, or in some form or fashion. I'm not sure what that is. But what's the next step? Who's in charge now? Should we go to Alderman Savage to find out? I mean, you know, we had all asked that the parties sit down and work this out, but clearly that didn't happen. So what happens now? And what do we tell the rest of the residents of the city of Annapolis about what's going
I
on?
think that's not a question that's just for the city manager, but I think we've had a vote. And Mr. City Manager?
Well, I do have a question. As Alderwoman O'Neill pointed out, it doesn't speak to times.
Right.
So it means that we can offer those swim times in the morning.
Mr. City Manager, I agree.
Councilwoman O'Neill, isn't that what you said?
That's exactly
So
what
that seems to be the will of the council.
It's supporting the resolution. It's supporting the swim team to have 5 lanes for those days.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The agenda is concluded, Mr. Mayor.
Thank goodness. Second.
Can I get a second for an adjournment, please? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.